Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
One Piece, Mini Hearts by cecebeec. Harem story with a twist. Luffy is the new transfer student at the previously all-girls Whole Cake Academy. There he makes friends with the sweet class president, the charming school's treasurer, the level-headed librarian, the head of the campus beautification committee, and many more female characters. Can Luffy survive a whole year with all these beautiful girls? Adios.
Several years prior, in his younger years, Luffy was growing up in the little town of Fuchsia. With his father working at the university and his mother working at her day job, Luffy was left in the care of his two babysitters, Mary and Sunny. The two were the surrogate sisters that he never had and were there for him when he needed the most loving. Mary would cook him delicious food, give him fun baths, and nurse him back to health when he was ill. Sunny encouraged his creativity with art, take him out shopping, and took him to the park. Between the two of them, they were glad to look after the little bundle of joy. When he went to the park, he would hang out with his older brothers Sabo and Ace. The trio was inseparable, causing mischief all over the playground. Several parents would yell at them for stealing snacks from their picnic baskets, carving their initials on the town's oldest tree, and creating an army out of the woodland animals. However, Sunny and Mary would take the trio back to their homes when the hours were over and the lights came on. Their dynamic would change when Yamato was added to the mix. The tall girl towered over the trio and could easily overpower Ace and Sabo. In Luffy's eyes, she was the coolest girl in the world. Or a guy depending on who asked. Yamato spent hours with the trio, but she was close to Luffy the most. Luffy also gave her the signature Oni mask that she loved wearing as a child. For her, those summers of sitting on the top of the tallest tree overlooking Fuchsia were the ones she remembered the most. And then, Shanks had to come into town. The summer when Shanks came to town was one of great importance. He came into town with a bright smile on his face, charming Makino who worked in the bar and impressing the children with his cool stories. He was the idol that Luffy strove to become and he became a somewhat uncle to Luffy. He also brought in one of the greatest people in his life. Luffy, everyone, meet my daughter Uta. At Party's bar, Shanks and his employees decided to have their company party at the popular bar. Makino got paid extra during the night to keep the drinks coming and the food cooking. Due to this, she had asked for Ace, Sabo, Yamato, and Luffy to help serve the food and take orders. Luffy happily agreed for the group, donning a cute apron to be the night's waiter. Yamato was placed at the bar, having learned some drinks to serve the guests. Ace and Sabo worked in the back of the kitchen, cooking up some food that Makino taught them before service. After a dozen or so drinks and meals had been served, Makino decided to give the group a break. Luffy scarfed down a mountain of meat while shoving fries into his mouth. Ace casually drank some root beer and had some meat of his own. Sabo was politely eating a light salad and sharing nachos with Yamato. Said girl was scarfing down her portion of nachos while chugging down some apple juice. Shanks hobbled over to the kids' table in his drunken stupor and presented them with his daughter. Uta was a pretty little girl. She had white and red hair in ponytails with circular braids at the end. Her eye was bright purple, but the left eye was covered by her white hair. She wore a jean jacket with a purple music note symbol on the right, a yellow sundress, and brown boots. A set of headphones hung around her neck with music blaring. Her eye ran down the table of children who looked slightly older than her or just about her age. Ace looked stupid in her eyes, startling her when he suddenly fell asleep. Sabo looked nice, if not a bit decent. Yamato held her gaze for a solid minute before Uta dismissed her as well. The last one, Luffy was it, stopped eating for a moment and stared back at her. Hello? Luffy said, waving at her. Hi there. I like your hat. Uta pointed at the straw hat. Thanks, Shanks gave it to me. My dad gave you his hat? You must be something special if he trusts you with that. Well, he saved my life once and I will never forget it. Uta blushed at that, turning away. He saved me as well. I am forever grateful for that. Hey, Uta, Yamato interrupted, getting a glare from the girl. I see you have headphones around your neck. Are you some sort of singer? This elicited laughter from Shanks' company, making the Oni girl confused. Uda gave her a smirk before walking up to the karaoke machine on the side of the bar. Scrolling through the selections before choosing a classic pop song. She pointed towards the crowd and launched into a whole song and dance number for the bar's entertainment. Everyone clapped and sang along with the young lady as she twirled around and posed cutely for all to see. Sabo was recording the entire performance on his phone. Ace woke up to hear the music, and Luffy had stopped eating to listen to the performance. His eyes were sparkling as he gave all his attention to the new girl. All while Yamato fumed in the background and bit her lip. Uda finished her performance, bowing toward the patrons, her father, and the kids. Skipping over to the table, she smugly placed the microphone down in front of Yamato. "Does that answer your question, dog girl, dog girl, dog girl? What is with that name?" Yamato asked, her face red with anger. "'Cause that ugly look on your face reminds me of a kicked puppy. Are you mad that I actually can sing?" Yamato was going to say something else before she was interrupted by Luffy. "Your voice is amazing. You could be a famous pop star one day. You should sing more often, Uda." "Really? You like my singing?" Uda blushed. Not used to hearing anyone outside her father and his company compliment her that deeply. "Maybe I should pursue my singing career. I was thinking of doing that when I finished schooling." "You should finish school and go into the music industry," Sabo agreed. "School is stupid. Just go straight into the music business and go to school later," Ace huffed. Uda ignored the other two, staring right at Luffy. Perhaps if she was lucky, maybe he would join her. He seemed like he had a good head on his shoulders and would provide her with some good times. Shanks spoke praises about this young man and he wouldn't lie about something like that. The only problem was that another girl was secretly glaring at her. "Say Luffy, when I make it big, you should come to see my concerts. We could travel the world together and you can eat all the meat you want." Luffy's eyes sparkled. "All the meat I could want?" Uda nodded, rocking back and forth on her feet. "Let's exchange numbers and keep in touch. Since Papa will be away for a business trip, we can arrange some playdates, you know, for planning and playing." "It's a deal. Let's be good friends, Uda." The two made a pact that night to keep in touch and follow their respective dreams. Who would have guessed that this chance encounter would change their lives forever? Present-day lunchtime was always a time of day that everyone looked forward to. Today, especially since it was stuffed crust pizza day. Bonnie was already gorging on her third slice before Luffy sat down next to her. He currently had earbuds in while bobbing his head to the music. Kami sat next to him, sewing some new clothes for the winter fashion show. Kaya and Robin were studying for the midterms, exchanging notes in various subjects. Nami and Vivi were looking over some notes from the council, checking the budget for the winter festival. Yamato was eating some pizza as well, sneaking gazes at Luffy. "So, the winter festival is coming upon us. Due to Linlin Sama's spending on the Thanksgiving food drive, we have no acts for the music portion." Nami bit her pencil till it broke. "How did we not budget this properly?" "Calm down, Nami, we can handle this. This isn't the first time we've had to budget around our gorger of a president. We may have to rely on local bands and music groups for the music," Vivi said, calming down the treasurer. "Say Kami, what are you sewing over there? It looks nice," Yamato asked, her eyes full of curiosity. "Glad you asked, Yama-chin. These clothes are going to be en show. Would you like a hat or scarf?" "I would love a fluffy scarf, thank you so much." Bonnie continued to eat her food while staring at Luffy, who was staring in the distance. His food was gone like usual, but he was listening to something loud and poppy. Who would be able to perform at the last minute? The preparations are underway and the budget is low. Nami's pencil was now fully broken and snapped in half. "Hey Straw Hat, whose music are you listening to?" Bonnie asked, taking out the earbud from his left ear. "Oi, what the hell, Bonnie?" Luffy snatched it back and glared at her. "I was just listening to Utahim's new album. Was that an excuse to rip out my earbud?" "Utahime? That idol girl who tours around the world and sings those songs about peace and love?" Robin looked up from her notes and smiled. "I quite like her songs. Very catchy." Yamato paused when she heard that name. Oh no, not her again. All those summers of playing with Luffy, Ace, and Sabo were always interrupted by Uda. She was Luffy's rival growing up since the two were overly ambitious with every activity. Sabo got along with her well enough, treating her like a princess. Ace was one she butted heads with constantly since they both had hot-blooded personalities. Yamato just didn't get along with that diva of a girl since she always commented on how she looked and dressed. To hear that her music had a profound impact on Luffy made her glare. "Yeah, Uta and I used to date a while back." Luffy gave a goofy grin. She was something special when we were together. There was a pause before the girls at the table had to register what was just said. Nami and Yamato's mouths dropped. Kaya blushed, Kami squealed. Vivi covered her mouth in shock, and Bonnie choked on her food. "You dated a pop star. Since when was that a thing?" Nami demanded, not believing a word that just came out of his mouth. "Nobody asked, and frankly I didn't know you guys even knew her music." "Wow, never thought I'd say this, but Luffy, you have game." Bonnie clapped his back, swallowing the food she choked on. "Why did she break it off?" Luffy sighed, his face turning sincere. "I broke up with her." Another pause. "You broke up with her? Oh my," Kaya whispered, putting her book down. Luffy-chin, why did you break up with her? Imagine the mad publicity. Nobody would bother you at this school since Uta is a big star. Kami waved her hands. "We had different dreams and ideals for the future. My plans didn't intertwine with hers and I wanted more than what she offered me, so we broke it off." "Wow, Luffy, I never thought you were so mature enough to admit such a thing," Nami commented. "You come off as a person who doesn't even know what SX is." "Hey, what's that supposed to mean? I'm mature," he stuck out his tongue. "And I know what SX is. My big brother's girlfriend Asuka told me about it. I even heard her fight Ace in his bedroom that one time." This comment caused his head to get bashed in by Nami, who was blushing up a storm. Robin and Vivi just chuckled at Luffy's innocent antics while Kaya started treating his wound with Kami. Yamato was deep in thought as she stared at Luffy with a soft smile. "If you know Utahime, why not invite her to perform for the winter concert? Bet you she'd quit her tour just to see you again." Bonnie jested, washing down her pizza with a swig of soda. "I highly doubt a mega pop star like Utahime would stop her tour just to perform at our small-town school festival." Yamato tried to dissuade her from suggesting such a notion. Luffy rubbed his now sore head bump while shrugging. "Couldn't hurt to try. I mean, I still have her number." "Who the heck keeps their ex-girlfriend on speed dial?" Nami roared, jerking his face in every which way. A lone tour bus was seen driving down a long, winding highway. This bus was decorated bright pink with colorful musical notes on a rainbow stanza. A blown-out picture of Utahime was on the side, winking and sticking out her tongue in a teasing manner. Inside the bus was the now older form of Uta, who was lounging on her bus bed on her phone. Off stage, she could wear her more comfortable clothing which consisted of a white t-shirt, burgundy shorts, and rainbow socks. A pair of headphones could still be seen around her neck as she hummed along to the music. Scrolling her social media pages, she suddenly noticed a text coming through. "Huh? Who could be texting me at this hour?" The only people who messaged her were her father, his most trusted employees, her agent Gordon, and her stage manager. However, this number looked familiar. Uta pressed the message and nearly gasped when she recognized the writing. "Hey Uta, are you coming home for the holidays? It would be nice to see you again. Please call me as soon as possible. Hope to see you soon. After all these years, it would be nice to be home for the holidays. Luffy. I wonder how you've been." Her heart started racing when she remembered how their former relationship went. He was so kind and stupid, with his hunger for meat and lust for adventure. Those grand summers going to the ocean and sailing their small boat. How they would catch fireflies and release them into the air. Those slumber parties where the both of them would sing karaoke. How upset he was when she decided to go on tour, leaving Fuchsia behind for her big dreams in the big city. "You know what?" Uta ran up front, hugging Gordon who was driving the bus. "Gordon, cancel the rest of my tour. I think it's time we come home for the holidays. Luffy, I want you to come with me on tour." Christmas was a time to be with friends and family. For Luffy, he got to see his grandfather, father, uncle, aunts, and all his various siblings under one roof. Makino would be in the kitchen with Aunt Rouge and Grandma Suru to make a ton of food for dinner. His father and Shanks would be watching television and drinking tons of beer. Grandpa worked a bit late but would be back in time for dinner. All of the children would be in the den and gazing at the gifts they would open the next day. Now they all crowded the couch and were watching some movie together. Sabo had his arm wrapped around his new girlfriend Koala, who was surprised to be invited for Christmas. She grew up in a foster home and never came to a family dinner before. Ace was passed out on the couch while Asuka snuggled into his chest. The two had recently hooked up after years of chasing each other down in college. Tama was engrossed in the movie on the floor with a peppermint stick in her mouth. Komachio, her big dog companion, was snoozing next to her. Yamato had a cup of cocoa in her hands, taking light sips as she stared out the window at the scene in front of her. What irritated Yamato was the fact that Uda would be gone for months in the end, making albums, taking dance classes, and being on tour, and expected Luffy to be at her beck and call when she came back. He was a great guy, a bit dense, but loyal to a fault. Her tour bus would come back around his birthday, summer break, and Christmas to spend time with him. Those two were so cute to the outside world. Many tabloids gossiped about the fact that Utahime found her prince charming. They were a power couple in every sense of the word, and their love seemed eternal. However, there were always dark clouds in every relationship. Yamato recalled a night when she stayed over at Luffy's house and heard them talking on the phone. It wasn't her business, but she poked her nose in it anyways. Luffy wanted to spend more time with her and finish schooling before he explored the world. Uda wanted her freedom and passion for music. She wanted the high life of exclusive parties, fine wine, and millions of fans. The two were ambitious about their dreams of grandeur. A shouting match only happened because Luffy pointed out that he wanted to find his path in life and it didn't involve creating music like her. Yamato held her mouth as she heard Uda tearfully plead that he come with her and leave his small town life. Now, as she sipped her cup of cocoa, she watched them stand outside in the snow having the same conversation. The phone call was a few months back and still fresh in her mind as she saw Uda ask the question once more. Luffy was adjusting his green sweater and wrapped his candy cane striped scarf around his face. Uda was rocking a nice white sweater dress with red leggings and fluffy white boots. Like the pop star, she was. Even her headphones were Christmas themed with snowflakes. Uda, we've talked about this before. I don't want to travel the world at the moment. I have a life here, with friends that like me, and family who love me. He turned away, his eyes hidden under his straw hat. I'm heading to high school in a few months. Uncle Rayleigh has transferred me over to the school Aunt Shaki runs. I'm going to finish my schooling and then I will go around the world. Uda got close to him, batting her eyelashes. Luffy, you can still learn on the road. I get online courses and tutoring. You can meet new friends when we travel. You can call your family anytime. Her lip quivered, gently took his hands. Don't you want to be with me? Isn't having me enough for you to want to come with me? We can even fix our relationship and live together. I want to be with you. Yamato gritted her teeth as she bit down on the cup. Her mind was racing even faster as she thought of many ways she could see this ending. If she knew Luffy, he would want to stay with Uda and leave everything behind to make her happy. Even leaving her, to her surprise, Luffy took his hands out of hers. Uda was even shocked, backing away as she saw him turn around. Uda, he started to say, his tone even and sad. Why do we keep doing this to each other? What are you talking about? I mean, why do we keep lying to ourselves like this? You leave for months at end, singing and impressing the public, and come back here acting as if nothing has occurred between the two of us. Nothing happened between the two of us. Why do you always bring up those arguments? Water under the bridge, I thought? Uda, have you ever cared about my wants and needs? There was a slight pause as Uda stopped herself from touching him once more. Yamato's eyes widened as she saw her face turn from shock to angry in seconds. Luffy, how could you even ask that? I do care about you. We've known each other for so long now that you don't need to ask. Why would you even? I don't think this is going to work out. Uda stopped in her rant and blinked. Huh? What did you just say? Luffy pulled his hat, hiding the tears going down his face. It was hurting him. It did hurt him to say this to her. Uda had been an integral part of his life up to this point and didn't want to lose her. But she acted like there was nothing wrong with their one-sided relationship. She was a diva who wanted everyone to agree with her. To Luffy, he felt like he was just one of her many admirers. Uda, you are a nice girl and deserve the world. The problem is, you have a dream that I want no part of. We are too different in the ways we handle problems. I just can't sweep our issues under the rug. He went towards her, placing a kiss on her forehead. I'm sorry, Uda, but I'm breaking up with you. I hope you find what you are looking for. As he walked in, Yamato moved away from the door, casually draping over the barroom table. He took one look at her and shook his head. She wanted to say something to him, but her words got caught in her throat. Passing by her, he gave her a soft smile and left upstairs to go check on the food. It made her nearly swoon before the door slammed open to show a now in tears Uda. Her makeup was running down her face. Mascara looked like ink on her eyes. Her hair was even in disarray. Her eyes darted around the room until they hit Yamato's. I hope you're happy, dog girl. He broke up with me. It's probably all your fault, she shrieked, stomping over toward her. You just couldn't leave him alone, could you? I bet you sunk your claws in him the second I left. Well, I have something to tell you. He'll be back. I won't let someone like him dump me ever again. You may have him now, but he'll come crawling back to me in the future. Mark my words, this isn't over, dog girl. Uda glared at her before taking the cocoa out of her hand and pouring it on the ground. Tama turned over to see Uda run up the stairs and sniffle. Big sis, is Big Bro and Uda okay? She asked worriedly. Yamato turned and shrugged. I don't know, and to be honest, I don't care. It was harsh, but Yamato knew this moment would pass in Luffy's life. This could be the moment she had been waiting for. All she had to do was wait until this all blew over and then make her move. This will all work out, right? He regretted this big time. Everyone at Whole Cake Academy was outside waiting in anticipation of the arrival of Utahime. Several girls rocked pins and buttons that had her face. Some had flags and hats on. There were even many banners rocking her face and message of peace. Luffy stood next to his friends while they were looking eager themselves except for Yamato. How did you manage to get Uda to come here? I can't believe this, Vivi smiled. You saved our festival, Nami exclaimed, hugging him. Oh, I could kiss you. Hey, knock it off. Yamato broke the two up. Luffy just has old connections with very important people. I find it super cool. I even made some new clothes for the occasion. Kami started sketching in her book, making more as we speak. Robin turned to see the solemn look in his eyes. Will you BT she your ex? I know, frankly, I didn't want to see her again. However, she is our last chance to save the festival. After this, I am officially cutting ties with her. Before Robin could reply, the familiar face of Charlotte Linlin came pushing her way through the crowd. Even she had her Utahime outfit on and rocked a nice-looking rainbow necklace from the Utahime collection. How on earth did you manage all this, monkey? She asked, giving him her usual snarl. Do you just have famous people under your belt or blackmail those you say you know? Luffy sighed, rolling his eyes. Linlin, at this point in the school year, why are you even bothering me? If you hate me that much, why does it matter who I know to you? Linlin said nothing after that and merely gave him a glare before walking off. This surprised the group as she wasn't one to give up so easily. Over the past weeks, she had seemed to mellow out and stop bothering him so much. Luffy hoped this meant that Linlin had finally given up on expelling him at last. A loud hissing noise interrupted his thoughts as the screams of several girls were heard. A large tour bus pulled up by the school that had Uda's face on the side while blaring music from her latest album. Confetti popped out from the top, spraying the crowd in rainbow goodness. Then, with fog for dramatic effect, out emerged Uda wearing an outfit for the winter festival that her fashion designer made. It was a cute Santa dress with a short skirt, red and white striped stockings, black boots, and small red jacket that was tied around her shoulders. Her headphones were even ornament bulbs with the tops being the headband. She waved to the crowd of fans, grinning and signing merchandise and books. Hey Whole Cake Academy. Who's ready to travel through the Uda world? Uda posed, making the girls all squeal. I am here on request that your school festival needed a star, as my Christmas present to you. I graciously came to save your festival. More claps and screams were heard as the crowd started chanting her name. Yamato scoffed at this, crossing her arms at how Uda acted. Some things never change, and it would appear the ego of her oldest rival had only gotten bigger. Uda stared through the sea of girls before her eyes landed on Luffy's. The two shared a stare of reminiscing, where one of them had their heart racing wildly and the other felt more neutral. Uda felt her cheeks grow red as she came towards him. Luffy was silent as she stopped in front of him and gave him a big hug. Sniffling was heard as tears ran down her face. "Welcome home, Uda," was all he could say as he patted on top of her head. "I'm glad to be home, Luffy," was all she said before planting a kiss on his lips, making him recoil in shock. Yamato felt good as she walked down the hallway upstairs. After witnessing Luffy break up with Uda, she felt more confident with how she wanted to express her feelings to him. Sure, he just broke up with her, but as her former father always said, to take what you wanted before it went away. Granted, this was the same guy who took out her hero because of petty reasons. The tall girl shook her head as she fixed her Christmas sweater and hair before adjusting her red striped horns. This was it. No turning back now. This crush of hers has gone on long enough. Throughout their childhood, Yamato felt as if she was playing second fiddle to the charming Uda. If Yamato learned how to tame dogs for fun, Uda was captivating audiences with her singing voice. If she was learning how to fight, Uda was learning how to dance. Yamato even learned how to cook to gain Luffy's attention, but was quickly overshadowed by Uda when she created a song for their love. With each discouragement and rebuff, Uda would taunt Yamato for not living up to feminine standards. This ruffled Yamato the wrong way, since she didn't live up to those stereotypes and would mostly be seen as more masculine in some cases. From her fashion to her passions, there was nothing that Yamato could do to sway Luffy's eyes away from starting a relationship with Uda. In some ways, she felt as if she lost a long battle where everything was going in Uda's favor. Everything always went her way whether she wanted to or not. Until now. Now the favor was in her court. If they were dueling on the field of battle, Uda with sword and she with her trusty kanabo, Yamato just snagged a final blow to her head. When she left for tours, all the attention was on her. Nights of them staying up late to study, days at parties bar serving the customers, and even the summer at Paradise Beach changed everything. Luffy started seeing her as more than just a companion for his adventures, but someone he could confide with. Ace and Sabo could only give so much advice about life in the world, however, she gave him advice on how to deal with girls. Oftentimes she was the one helping him plan out dates for when Uda came home. If anything, that girl should be thanking her for all those good dates. Now, as she stood outside his bedroom door, her heart was thumping wildly in her chest. This was the moment she had been waiting for her whole life. All those years dropping hints, pining silently, racking her brain, and speaking to the other girls in the family had led up to this. All she had to do was knock on the door and, "I just don't want to date for a while." Her hand hovered over the door, almost pounding it over from her sheer strength alone. Luffy's voice came from behind the door, sounding so sullen. He must have called one of his friends or someone to talk to about the breakup. Looking around to see nobody in the hall, she pressed her ear against the door to hear the conversation he was having with the person on the phone. "What happened to Uda? Did you tell her that you wanted to stay in town?" "I did. She didn't take it well. She even tried to manipulate me into going with her." "Ouch. No wonder you dumped her. No girl is worth that much trouble." Who was this guy talking with Luffy on the phone? Yamato knew that Luffy only hung out around either her and the bros, his rec center buddies, or his friends at school. This guy sounded more mature and older than anyone he was around. "So what are you going to do now, Luffy? This is just one of many girls out there that you would give your attention to. Actually, do you have any girl best friends?" "Of course I do. My brother's girlfriends both like me well enough that we chat. Then there's Tama, but she's a little girl. There was this one girl I met years ago, but I forgot her name, and Yama-o." She heard him pause for a moment, the room getting quiet. Well, if there was one person who's always been there for me, it would be her. When I felt broken down when Uda left, she comforted me with a fun treat. She and I struggled to do homework together. And that summer at Paradise Beach made me so happy. She has been there for me the whole time and I've enjoyed her company the more I spend time with her. This made her heart soar. So she did have value beyond being his wingwoman, at the least. He thought of her as more than a friend. "Why don't you just date her? She seems like your ideal type." A sigh came out of his mouth as Yamato leaned more to hear his reply. "I couldn't date her now. I see her as a great friend and companion. Right now, I want to focus on my own life and figure things out now that I am not tethered to Uda anymore." I want to meet other girls since she chased away any girl who tried to be my friend. Looking for a change in scenery, eh? Not wanting to be in another relationship without meeting all the girls? My aunt has the papers ready. I think I'll be transferring to a school where I can finally make friends with the opposite gender. Bummer. I guess we'll miss you next year. Are you certain this is what you want? Trust me. I want to develop long-lasting relationships, but healthy ones with females. No more deceptions, no more drama, and no more waiting around for someone to return. With those words ringing in her head, Yamato brought herself back away from the door. Her eyes were closed tightly, her chest raising up and down. Water rained down from her eyes as she covered her face. Not wanting to stir up the sleeping family, she made her way down the stairs and opened the back door. Outside, a fresh coating of snow covered the ground like a blanket. The snow had stopped falling, and tiny dots of clouds covered the sky. A soft wind blew her locks every which way as she knelt on the ground. Yamato was usually better than this. No man would ever make her cry like this ever. Luffy was a different story. The winter concert had gone great. Whole Cake was funded greatly by the pop star as she sang her new Christmas-themed album songs at their concert. Uda made herself known as she wore a sparkly red dress, her hair done in a braided ponytail, and a white feather boa. Her hands were covered with red gloves and a pair of fuzzy white earmuffs were on her ears. All the attention was on her for the entire night as she promoted the charity drive and the Secret Santa exchange. It was the biggest turnout yet for the academy. For Uta, this was just the ticket she needed to get back together with Luffy. The scene was perfect. After she did some non-stop performance for 3 hours straight, she was currently on her break. Switching out of her performing outfit, she now wore a white sleeveless tube top, with silver sequins sewn onto the bottom. She wears a matching white and silver skirt with 2 rows of red sequins, one on the top and the other on the bottom. She pairs this with a matching white fluffy jacket. For her footwear, she has red and white heels with white bows and ankle-red glittery socks. With her newfound outfit and confidence, she felt as if this was the moment to impress him again. After she was unfairly dumped, Uta spent her time in her music and life on the road. While it hurt in the minute, she made that pain turn into a passion for her career. It annoyed her to no end that he never called, texted, or even sent her a letter afterward. Just because they broke up didn't give him the right to ghost her. She complained to her father about this, though all he had to say was that Luffy wanted a real connection, not a fan one. Which struck her odd since he practically adored her when she was a child. If there was a time when a girl tried to get close to him, Uta sent them off with a glare or charmed them to the point where they looked at her. Luffy encouraged her to create her art. He was her muse. If he had just said yes that night, she would have had him all to herself. No one would ever break them apart and that silly dog girl would have been all alone. Fine by her since he was more interested in her anyways. I have to say, that performance was good as always. The Princess of Pop just paused in her musings to turn and see Yamato coming up from behind her. The stupid dog girl could never keep her stinking nose out of her business. She looked so repugnant that it took all her entire willpower to keep herself from sneering. Instead, she gave her a sweet smile. To what do I owe one of my adoring fans the pleasure of meeting me? Surely you should be back to your festivities in the main auditorium? Yamato crossed her arms, a smug smirk on her face. Cut the crap. I know you're heading to where Luffy is. You aren't very subtle with the way you like him too. Let me guess, you're still sore because you're his ex-girlfriend. Smack. Uta was seeing red as she glared at the now red-cheeked Yamato, who was both stunned and angered by this confrontation. Her bag fell to the floor, forgotten as the white-haired girl placed a hand on the cheek. You think you're so smug with being one of this pitiful school's top students. I'm not afraid of getting what I want, and what I want is Luffy. He broke my heart on Christmas, but I am willing to give him one last chance to come with me. There must be a reason why he called me, otherwise I wouldn't have come to this event. This just means that I am still an important part of his life. You truly have no idea whom you just slapped. Yamato gave her a cold look before getting in her face. How delusional do you have to be that you can't comprehend that you are the reason he broke up with you? You lost him because you are selfish and don't like getting no for an answer. You only cared about yourself and never heard his dreams. This form of Luffy you have in your mind is only a dream. Wake up, Uta, and realize that he isn't into you anymore. Shut up. I said shut up, you dog. Uda stomped her foot in anger. The reason why he doesn't love me anymore is that you interfered with our relationship. I did nothing wrong. You should be thanking me for all those lovely dates he took you on. Uda's face went ashen. What are you talking about? You must be lying to me. Yamato laughed bitterly. How could I lie about the tickets to the music festival? Or the lake house date? Do you think that Luffy had time to think of your very demands and likes? He tried his best, but even that takes a team to learn how to please you. Face it, Uda, you are nothing but a diva with a control problem. Things were quiet between them, both glaring at each other. Neither one wanted to speak first as they were stewing in their anger. Yamato felt a block release itself from her chest as she realized she finally got her words out. Uda was fuming at the fact that there was some merit to Yamato's words. Alright dog girl, I'll tell you only this. I will back down now, but you aren't going to win. This is a school for girls after all. His eyes will wander and he will leave you as he did me. If by some miracle chance, he does turn his eyes on you, then that will be something worth celebrating. Uda walked in the other direction, turning to her. Don't think you've won just because I backed down. This just means I've finally acknowledged you as my feminine rival. May the best girl win. Yamato clenched her fists together. Love is not a competition, Uda. I know, because if it was, you would be crushed. You're all talking, no action, Uda. You don't scare me. Yamato leaned down, whispering in her ear. Cause you'll be gone and he'll be here with me. Have a great tour. Yamato watched as Uda stormed off before more damage could be done. A sigh slipped through her mouth as the taller girl made her way back to the auditorium for Kami's fashion show. This was a hollow victory at most. Uda may have left him alone now, but she promised that she'll be back soon. Hey Yamato. Wait up. Yamato stopped in her tracks as Luffy ran to catch up with her. The two smiled at each other as they stared into each other's eyes. Luffy gulped some lost air into his lungs before his eyes darted upwards. Check it out. Someone left some greens hanging on the ceiling. Wonder if that is some school tradition? Yamato chuckled. That's more of a Christmas tradition at best. Usually, when someone stands under the mistletoe you have to give them a kiss. Is that so? Guess I must honor that then? Luffy leapt upwards and placed a small kiss on her cheek. This turned Yamato's entire face red as she covered it up once again. Before Luffy could ask if she was okay, she pushed him down to the ground, making the concrete crack with how hard she pushed him. All he did was laugh at her reaction as she protested his sudden kiss. Although, when she looked back at this memory, she would always remember her first kiss. Next time. Boa. I need you to help me look after my niece. Luffy. Hold on, you want me to help you babysit? When Boa Hancock enlists the help of Luffy to watch over her niece, a battle ensues between the girls on who gets his attention more. Luffy. Well, aren't you a cutie pie? Snake. Blushes I'm going to win your heart yet. Will Luffy be able to calm this family feud? Find out next time. Babysitting blues. The Snake Princess's fatal prey. What can be said about the beauty known as Boa Hancock? Urban legends state that every few decades or so, there's a beautiful woman born in the town that exceeds all expectations. This woman would be kindest of heart, brave beyond measure, just in power, and elegant with poise. So few would have all these traits, and it was rare to find a girl with just one of the traits prominent in their life. This was what it took to be a real queen that reigned above them all. Everyone knows that all queens came from prolific families and grew up in the lap of luxury. Why look at the beauty queens of the finishing school? They all lived fabulous lives that all girls wish they could have. Boa Hancock, however, wasn't so lucky. When she was born, her parents told her that she was going to be a success. No matter what happened in life, as long as she had her looks, there was nothing that could ever harm her. And Boa stuck to that principle throughout her childhood, making sure that she was the most beautiful girl in school. She learned makeup from the nice women at the mall. She would frequent hair salons to get new styles added to her hair and products to use. She even went to the bookstore to read fashion magazines to be up to date on recent trends. When her sisters were born, she practiced all her techniques on them and they were forever grateful. Boa and her sisters were known as the Amazon Trio, a group of unobtainable girls that every boy or girl wanted as their lovers. However, her family life wasn't so great since she grew up in a poor neighborhood. Her parents made do with what they had and put aside some money for her future. What they lacked in funds, they gave in love. They always told their daughters that as long as they had love in their hearts and an eye for beauty, they will never be unhappy. Until one day, when Boa's life changed in an instant. A tragic accident claimed her parents' lives, a hit and run that made them collide with a cliffside. They were coming home from a trip, leaving a 7-year-old Boa overseeing her younger sisters. When the police came to the house, they were devastated. Marigold and Sandersonia were confused at best until they saw their older sister break down in tears. The foster care system came the next day to separate the siblings, but Boa didn't have it in her heart to part with her only family members. She fought the system, claiming that she would continuously fight them if it tore them apart. The system relented, trying to prevent any conflict from arising from an unruly child. So began the darkest chapter in the Amazon trio's lives. Every morning around 7, Boa opened her eyes to greet the day. Her long, silky ebony locks were wrapped up in a scarf to prevent breakage, a sleep mask over her eyes to prevent puffiness, and her body soft from the essential oils doused the night before. Perfect beauty took time and effort after all. Coming out of her slumber meant getting out of her expensive sheets and gliding over to her vanity. With a dramatic flourish, she took the sleep mask off and unraveled the scarf. Her hair came down to her knees as she started her routine brushing. After that came all the creams and powders that made her face look pristine. Finally, she got up from the vanity to take off her night clothes and switch into her uniform. She never took showers in the morning. To clean herself of the impurities of the day, she waited till the night to give herself a cleansing glow. Once she tied the last ribbon on her uniform, she put on her jewelry. Her snake earrings, her signature golden necklace, and many rings on her fingers. One last spritz of her perfume and she completed her morning routine. Now it was time for her makeup. Like all girls, she kept her foundation low and her blush high. Red was her signature lipstick color and lilac was her eyeshadow color. A little bit of gloss would make her lips pop out. One last look in the mirror and she was out of her bathroom. I, Boa Hancock, am truly the most beautiful woman in the world. None can compare to my effortless beauty and perfect mind. Whatever I do, I'll be forgiven, because I am beautiful. Good morning, Mother Nyan. I expect that my breakfast has been made and my lunch is set out for me? This was how she ran the house. Even though Grandiosa Nyan was their caretaker, she had become a maternal figure for the girls. Her home was open for all the members of their gang if they had troubles and woes. Everyone on Warlord Street knew the Kuja gang house was a place where none could trespass unless they were a woman or a special case. Although Mother Nyan owned the house, Boa helped out with her brand of bratty nature. Like every morning, she came down to the kitchen area with her prideful smirk and air of refinery. Get it yourself, you old hag. Boa's usual happy face distorted into one of pure disgust and horror. That voice. That unmistakably annoying pesky voice, it couldn't be. No, why was she here? When Boa usually came down to the kitchen, she would see Mother Nyan cooking breakfast, Marigold looking over her homework, and Sandersonia texting on her phone. As it was, they were doing their usual morning tasks without delay. However, at the table eating her portion of breakfast, was the smug face of her little niece. Nagarani Hancock. If you could picture a younger version of Boa, you would have Nagarani. The only difference between the two is in their appearance, skin and hair-wise. Her brown skin was like milk chocolate, smooth and delicate. Her white hair was styled just like her auntie's down to the very last piece. She even copied her signature earrings as well. The pest had some nerve coming into her house and claiming what was hers. Although Boa would admit, she was wearing a cute outfit, a white long-sleeved top, a red skirt, and matching red ballerina flats with a white bow on top. Now Boa. Mother Nyan's voice came from the stove. I know you and Ronnie tend to not get along, but she's only here for a week. The boarding school she attends had to get fumigated for termites, so you both better behave. Not likely, Mother. Those two have always been enemies. Sandersonia pointed out, chuckling under her breath. Oh, it would be a cold day in hell if those two got along. Boa's eyebrow twitched a bit as she sat down in her usual spot. I'm not going to ask why she's here. All I want to know is why she couldn't have stayed with Miss Shaki. But Auntie Boa, I missed you so much. Ronnie batted her eyes and made a cute pout with her lips. You go to an all-girls school while mine is co-ed. I wanted to know what it was like going to your school for a change. That was another thing Boa couldn't stand about the little devil. She copied her philosophy too. Instead of being the most beautiful woman in the world, Ronnie strived to become the cutest girl in the world. Which, by the way, was impossible since her ambition would only last for so long before everyone moved on. Besides, it would be nice to show her around since none of us are home during the day. Marigold pointed out. Give her a small tour and let her attend your classes. A long sigh came out of Boa's mouth as she leaned back in her chair. Because you asked me so graciously, I guess I could spare the child a glimpse into my school life. She stood up, pointing at the bewildered Ronnie, and tilted her neck back. No matter how cute you are, you shall never live up to my expectations. I shall not accept such an ugly brat. Speak for yourself, hag. You must be joking with those wrinkles underneath your eyes. Needless to say, Boa had to hold her tongue before she let the girl have it. Her sisters only sighed as they knew the reason why the two were always at each other's throats. Despite the two being at each other's throats, the young girl did look up to Boa in a way she would never admit to the elder snake sister. Ronnie didn't get the privilege of having siblings, being an only child raised in a sterile environment. The second she was born, her former parents whisked her away to a lab where she was monitored and studied by T Foundation. It wasn't all bad, though Ronnie wished for someone to relate to since she was the only female in her class of males. Not to mention they were all ugly men in her eyes. When she got a break from her constant studies and training, she would spend time with Rayleigh and Shaki, her adoptive parents. It was only a couple of years ago when she met the Snake Sisters and had affectionately called them her aunties. It was also around that time that she began to copy every detail about Boa. Ronnie swallowed the remaining of her breakfast before placing the dish into the dishwater. I'm finished. I'll be waiting at the door for you, auntie. So drag your big butt to the door when you finish your meal so we can go. Boa clenched her spoon hard enough to bend it as the littlest snake girl skipped to the front door with her backpack on her back. This was going to be a long day. Wow, Whole Cake Academy is as large as the pictures show. Ronnie wasn't used to seeing so many bright colors in one area and she was very impressed with the building. Her eyes became starry as she saw the cute uniforms that every woman wore. She shyly waved at some of the students, who in turn awed at her adorable figure. Coming to school early for a committee meeting, Boa practically dragged Ronnie through the quad. It was one thing having to be around her for long periods at a time. It was another thing to make sure she didn't run off. Ronnie, you have to stay close to me. I cannot allow you to bring my reputation down if I cannot watch a simple child. Boa gave her an exasperated look when all the little girl did was stick out her tongue in response. All the more reason why she had to restrain herself from hitting her on the head. This brat. Why should I? You were supposed to lead me around the school. Ronnie pouted, hands on her hips. This isn't going to be fun if you have work to do. Don't you have a whole gang of girls at your beck and call? For your information, those girls have their morning duties and clubs to attend. I too have such duties, so I have to find someone reliable to watch you while I work. Before she could say any more, a pair of arms wrapped around her body. She was about to curse out whoever had the nerve to jump her so suddenly when her face turned a bright shade of crimson. It was him, Monkey D. Luffy in all his smiling glory. It took all the willpower within her very body not to faint with glee or squeal with joy. It was a not-so-secret thing that Boa had a major crush on Luffy after she rescued him from those boorish Wano girls. Ever since then, she had been taking subtle pictures of him, writing down their future together in her dream journal, and joining a fan club dedicated to him on campus. Her sisters knew of her attraction to the only male in school and supported her in trying to ask him out on a date. Oh, if only she could muster up the words to say at this moment. Hey Hammock, how's it going this morning? He knew her name. Oh my, why could she utter the right words? Why was her mouth not forming complete sentences? How could her brain fail her at a time like this? Ronnie paused in her walk to see a young man hug her aunt from behind and gasp. Without any warning, she charged at him with her fists ready to punch him well. Luffy saw the small girl and moved out of the way to avoid being hit. However, he managed to trip up Boa at the same time and sent them both crashing to the ground. Poor Boa was now on top of him and sputtering pure nonsense as their faces were close together. To his merit, all he did was give her another goofy grin. Gee hammock, I didn't mean for us to fall like this. Guess I swept you off your feet there. That was the last straw as Boa passed out from pure delight and embarrassment. When hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls. Whenever candlelights flicker where the air is deathly still. That is the time when ghosts are present, practicing their terror with ghoulish delight. A party where no one knows your face and everyone was wearing costumes to hide their feeble lives. Yep, Lilith hated being here. In the corner stood a young lady with a good head on her shoulders and no nonsense on her face. She was at this Youth Hallows Eve party at the local rec center and everything annoyed her. The sights of her fellow peers grinding on each other, the sickening scent of sugary candy, and the acrid taste of cider going past her tongue. Flashing strobe lights irritated her eyes, cute little decorations littered the walls, and the music was deafening. It made her so annoyed to be here and yet she wanted to stay. Perhaps she was still annoyed by what Mela had said earlier that day, how she was always by herself and never wanted to interact with people her age. She would rather spend her time reading books in the library, helping her siblings with experiments, and training the next generation of clones that lived in her father's lab. Not wanting to participate in this hookup culture and dating and love and junk. Makes me sick, she muttered, sipping more of her cider and sliding down the wall. Look at all these stupid ignoramuses with their smiling faces and stupid costumes. Are they trying to win a contest for the most idiotic looking attire? She shouldn't be talking since she was wearing a costume of her creation. A pink full-body jumpsuit that bears her designation of Punk 02 on the left breast. She also wears a purple coat, black boots, dark purple gloves, and a red aviator helmet. Her father only refers to her by the number of when she was born. Her costume was her lab gear and she didn't want to buy or create a new one. Then again, she didn't want to come to a big party undressed or wearing her school uniform. This is so embarrassing. Maybe I should go. Wait. Those weren't her thoughts. Someone had spoken out loud what she was thinking. She turned to the side to see a pink-haired girl who was sitting next to her. Her costume was that of a cupid. A white dress, matching wings, gold sandals, red heart jewelry, and a halo headband. Said girl was snacking on a plate full of what looked like most of the buffet. Every bite and smack of her lips made Lilith cringe at all the splatter. I do agree. This kind of festivities isn't my thing. I'd rather not flirt with boys. I can barely hear over this music, and Lilith closed her eyes. I had a small tiff with my friend. That bad, huh? More food splatter hit her face, making her cringe. Usually this kind of stuff isn't my thing too. However, free food and seeing some girls from school makes it more enjoyable. Lilith saw the DJ throwing candy down at the cheering audience. How do you tolerate this? Like all this partying and crazy hormones? I am asking myself, what am I doing here? Before the strange pink-haired girl could comment, a drunk guy came sauntering over to them. His eyes roamed not only her jumpsuit, but her chatting companion's dress. Her face scrunched up with disgust along with the pink-haired girl too. Both were visibly uncomfortable as his breath stunk up their faces. He was dressed like a walking skeleton. Hey girls, I was looking for someone out of this world and you look like you fit the bill. He then turned to the pink girl. And I guess Cupid herself shot her arrow of love at me. Are you two ready to rattle my bones? Drop dead, you drunken skull. The girl next to her scoffed. We don't need you stinking up our girl time. The skull guy frowned. You don't need to be so rude, I was just playing. He turned to Lilith. You wanna dance gorgeous? I'm sorry, but I'll have to decline. I find the concept of drunk dancing to be beneath me. Perhaps if you were sober and not bothering me I would be happy to join. The guy clearly couldn't take a hint as he slammed his hand against the wall. I was trying to be polite, sweetheart, but I guess you didn't take a hint. Before any of them could react, the guy was shoved out of the way by some girl in a butterfly-themed costume. She glared down at the guy, almost begging him to fight back. Said guy hurriedly ran off, scared by her glare and height. She sighed, turning to the other girls with a smile. You girls doing okay? She asked them, making sure they had no marks on them. Reiju, didn't realize you were the party type. How did you sneak away from your brothers? The gluttonous girl laughed, patting her on the back. I was invited by a friend. Her cheeks flared up red as she stared down at Lilith. You good? The sound of everyone's chatter, The whole experience of the drunkard and the bright lights finally took its toll on the genius girl. Her hands clutched the sides of her head as she closed her eyes and brought her head to her knees. Her heart pounded rapidly in her chest, her breathing increased, and tears ran down her face. She knew this was going to be too much for her. Why is she even here? Everything was so overwhelming. People weren't like machines, and all these emotions were making her feel various emotions at once. This was a mistake. I shouldn't be here. I can't comprehend all this nonsense. Why aren't people easier to deal with? I feel so scared. Hey, hey. Arms wrapped around Lilith as she smelled a familiar scent of cocoa and shea butter filled her nose. Lily? Calm down, girl. Breathe in and out. The loud noises were dying down as she felt Mala move her out of the main room. Her friend moved her to one of the quiet rooms as she continued her deep breath exercises. Her soothing voice guided her to a beanbag chair, letting her sit down. Her eyes opened to see Mala dressed as a witch with a cute black dress, a big hat, striped socks, and boots. Concentrate on your breathing. Stay in the present. Something warm was placed in her hands, which she saw was a cup of hot cider. I'm here for you, Lily. Just take your time and I'll be here for you. You don't have to worry about that party, just focus on me and the sound of my voice. Her breathing was slowing down and her tears stopped falling. Lilith shakingly brought the cup up to her mouth and took tentative sips of the warm beverage. Mala calmly rubbed her back, making sure to check on her friend's condition. I'm here for you. You'll be okay soon. She gave her another hug before sighing. There we go, all better now? Yeah. I can't believe I let my emotions cloud my judgment. Lilith's hair covered her eyes as she felt ashamed. This never happens to someone of my genius. I'm smart, better than anyone in there, and yet, social anxiety nearly made me pass out. But you are okay now. You came out here and tried. Mala patted her back. You're very brave for facing your fears of coming out here. On a night like this, our fears become amplified and everything seems so strange and weird. I may be an extrovert, but even I sometimes feel upset by being around people. I should have never pushed you to come here, even if that nice guy helped you. I'm so sorry for earlier. Lilith looked at her friend who she had mocked and scorned earlier. How she still cared for her despite saying all those terrible things to her. A pang of guilt flashed in her thoughts as she turned to her friend. I should be the one to apologize to you. I thought you were just being cruel to me due to pushing me to do this and forcing me out of my comfort zone. I did try my best to accomplish this task. She squeezed Mala's hand. It was an experiment that needs more time. You can always count on me to be there for you. We'll get through moments like this together. Mala smiled at her friend. You think you're comfortable enough to go back in there, Vegapunk? I think I'll need some time before I can go back in there. All those adolescents in their costumes and making sexual advances with each other makes me want to gag. The party Luffy and Reiju started dancing with one another. After her encounter with Vegapunk, Reiju informed Luffy that she would go check on the frightened girl. But Luffy pointed out Mala taking her away. This made the upperclassman sigh in relief knowing that someone was watching over her. Seeing her have a panic attack reminded her of those nights when she had to comfort Sanji after the abuse from her father. It nearly made her cry when she saw that. Oi Reiju, I'm glad that you decided to come along with me, Luffy said, dancing closer to her now. I was afraid that you wouldn't want to come because. Rest assured, even if my father and brothers said no, I still would have come to this party. She spun around him with a seductive smile. You just inviting me was just a bonus. Luffy grinned. Well, I'm happy that you are having a great time. Heck, you and I could try to hang out more after school if you'd like. I'd like that a lot. You seem pretty decent despite what Linlin has put you through. She just hates my guts for some reason. I just got used to it after this point. Aren't you going to at least try? Can't beat her up in school. Maybe after. This made Reiju laugh as she hip-bumped Luffy. Just as long as you get a good swing at her for me. I would appreciate that. The girl thinks she's better than everyone in the school. One time, she tried using my chemicals to enhance the flavor of her candies but ended up making a toxic smoke that covered the whole school. I was so upset with her and she acted like she had nothing to do with me. Wow, she's made enemies out of a lot of people. I may send a punch her way. The two of them just laughed as they continued to dance the night away. Luffy would admit that later he found Reiju to be a great friend and companion to talk to whenever he needed a break at school. The hardships wouldn't end for them once they reached the orphanage. Boa was steadfast and hard-hearted as she and her sisters approached their temporary home. After all, she was the oldest, the wittiest, and the prettiest of them. She had to be strong for them, strong for her parents, and strong for herself. However, the ones who owned the place wouldn't make it that easy for them. Celestial Orphanage was one of many troubles and hardships. The children there were often underfed, underdressed, and unloved. The nobles that owned the place looked down on the children, considering them to be the S of the earth. The meals given to them were cold and flavorless, their cots barely had blankets, and they were only given gray rags to wear. Boa was spared from their scorn and mockery, though she was paraded around like a common wench. The owners liked that they had a pretty face among their children, and oftentimes she was used to cover up the hardships of the place. They dressed her in elaborate clothing, washed her hair, and sprayed terrible perfume on her when the child service officers came. And every time they asked her what the conditions were like, she would smile and say, "I love being here, I wish I would never leave." This was a front, an act to keep her sisters safe. For if she were to ever reveal the truth, they threatened to sell off her sisters to the highest bidder. A cruel reality of the orphanage was that it was a secret auction house for nobles to buy their servants, heirs, or even slaves for their nefarious purposes. Boa was the prized jewel of their collection and everyone wanted to adopt her. However, she would throw a big tantrum whenever she was separated from Sandersonia and Marigold. No matter how many times they threatened to harm her, Boa remained stubborn to be removed from the atrocious place. One time, she had slapped a noble who had gotten handsy with her. Enraged by this, the owners grabbed her and her sisters and tossed them inside a room where several brands of various sizes lay out for them to see. Boa's eyes widened when she saw several bloodied pieces of flesh lying on the table and the smell of burnt skin in the air. Her sisters huddled close, shivering in fear. The elder sister watched as the owner brandished a particular red-hot brand in his hands and glared down at them. "Take off those filthy rags and turn around. This will teach you brats to disobey your owners." Boa pushed her sisters behind her as the hot iron came closer to their bodies. Her heart raced wildly as she began to kick and fight back. This was to no avail as her wrist was caught. Her shirt ripped off and pushed against the table, her hands were tied up behind her back while a gag was placed in her mouth. Her sisters cried and pleaded with the owner to let their sister go, but he kicked them to the ground. His rotten breath permeated her nose as he leaned over. "That's what you sluts are good for. Bent over, tied up, and ripe for the plucking. This will teach you to defy us ever again." The pain that followed was excruciating. "Han, hey wake. Auntie Boa, wake up." The shrill voice of Nagarani interrupted the horrible nightmare that Boa had been trapped in. Her eyes immediately flew open as she bashed her forehead against her little clones. As she held her now probably bruised head, she noticed that she was on a cot inside the nurse's office. A blanket was on her body, her nose was stuffed with tissue, and she felt a weight against her legs. Her eyes darted down to see what brave fool was leaning against her. It was Luffy. "That's nice. No wait, Luffy." Boa nearly flipped out of the bed with a gleeful shriek before composing herself. Her future husband, the man of her dreams, the reason that her locker was full, was sleeping against her legs. Her heart gave small palpitations as she gushed at his adorable snoring face and snot bubbles coming out of his nose. Oh, how her heart fluttered at the sight that made her legs tremble and knees weak. If it wasn't for the brat being here, she would have planted a big kiss on his lips so tender. The sound of a door being kicked open snapped her out of her loving thoughts as Dr. Kureha came in. She swiftly glared at the old woman with her teeth grinding. "Must you make that loud noise?" she spat, pointing at Luffy. "A student is sleeping." The woman gave her an uncaring glance before sipping her flask. "You are enjoying that more than me. I'm not going to ask, but it's clear to me that you care for him. Again, not my business and not my issue. You look well enough to go to class." Boa pouted, crossing her arms. "I guess so, let me wake him up and..." She turned to see Nagarani being treated by Luffy as he placed a band-aid on her forehead. The little girl was making the same pouty face as she snuggled up against Luffy's chest. How dare that brat use the same tactics she was thinking of using and adding to her adorable nature as well. Boa could hear her teeth grinding as she glared deeply at her niece. "Thank you so much for patching me up, Mr. Luffy," Nagarani exclaimed, blushing at the boy. "I was ever so afraid that my cute face would bruise up." "No problem, Nagi," Luffy grinned, messing up her name. "I was wondering." The young girl twiddled her fingers shyly. "Would you be willing to have lunch with me? As a thank you, of course." "Why, you little—" Boa started to scream before regaining her composure when the two stared at her. Nagarani, I thought you wanted to eat lunch with your Auntie Boa?" Nagarani's smile faltered a bit. "Well, I don't want to bother you, Auntie. I mean, you are such a busy, pretty lady. I can stay with Mr. Luffy." Luffy sat between the girls, digging his nose as he didn't know what the heck was going on. Suddenly, Boa yanked his right arm and wrapped her arms around it. To his left, Nagarani grabbed his other arm and wrapped it around it. It was starting to become obvious that neither girl was letting the other back down. Are you two alright? What is going on?" Luffy asked, getting slightly annoyed. Nagarani tightened her hold on him as she stared into his eyes. "I've decided, Mr. Luffy. You and I will be boyfriend and girlfriend." Dr. Kureha could only laugh as she saw the most popular girl in school turn deathly pale. So who's the new girl, Luffy?" It was around lunchtime at Whole Cake and the usual crew were sitting around the table. Luffy and Bonnie were both mouth deep in some ribs and napkins were flying. Robin was casually doing some homework while wearing a poncho to protect herself from the flying sauces. Nami and Kaya's sweat dropped as they ate their home-cooked meals. Kami had to move down the other end of the table as she went back to fixing her newest design with Carrot helping her out. Yamato too was eating her plate of ribs as she swallowed with gusto. Oh, and a little girl was sitting beside Luffy and admiring him with sparkling eyes. "Oh her," Luffy said through a mouthful of meat. "This is Ronnie, she's Hammock's sister." "Niece," the girl pointed out. "Niece," Luffy corrected, taking another bite. "Who's visiting for the day?" Bonnie raised her eyebrow at the little girl's eyes sparkling at Luffy. "I see. So what's her deal? Why is she giving you goo-goo eyes?" "Giving me what now?" Ronnie giggled, hugging his arm as she rubbed her face against his shoulder. "Isn't it obvious? I'm Luffy's new girlfriend." The table went silent as they processed this. Robin merely laughed into her book along with Nami, Kami, and Kaya blushed. Bonnie rolled her eyes, Carrot gasped, and Yamato shook her head at the little girl. From the other table, Lin overheard this and turned to Khalifa, who gave her a stoic look. "Did you hear that? That monkey boy is dating a minor. We can use that to get him expelled?" Lin cheered, getting ready to make his expulsion papers. "You do realize she is merely exhibiting childish notions of love and isn't very serious with this, right? Not only that, but the Straw Hat doesn't even notice her obvious crush," Khalifa pointed out, making the pink-haired end. "You are such a buzzkill. Why can't you ever be more supportive of me getting rid of that waste of rubbery space?" From another table, Boa was seething as she ground her teeth at the sight of Ronnie being so intimate with her future husband. How did her stupid niece get so close to her man without her even trying? Why did she have to be such a fool and pass out when he came near her? This crush, her unrequited love for him, was making her a mess. The other Amazons saw their leader playing with her food as it became a pile of mush. Hebehime, is everything alright?" Marguerite asked tentatively, feeling all the mush flakes hit her face. "I think your mac and cheese just became mush and chunks." "You'll have to forgive her, ladies. Our niece has come for a visit and well." Marigold pointed at the little girl who was currently sitting in Luffy's lap. "She's gone cozy on Straw Hat." Made worse at the fact that she declared herself his girlfriend in a childish attempt of trying to be like our sister. Sandersonia chuckled, taking the plate away from Boa. "If it bothers you so much, go over and tell him." Hancock's face went from seething with rage to blushing mess. I just can't do it." She slammed her lunch tray on her reddened face. "Every time I try to talk to him, I end up making a fool out of myself. I passed out in his arms this morning due to him catching me." While her sisters were used to seeing this side of Hancock, the other Amazons looked at their leader with different faces of shock. Their strong female leader had a sweet side that was quite adorable. This made the entire lunch table of gang members love their leader much more. What could they say? No matter what she did, it made her look more lovely and pretty. Do not despair, Snake Princess. Kikyo stood up from her spot and placed a hand on her heart. Your loyal Kuja will make sure you get a date with the Straw Hat Boy. Really? The raven-haired beauty poked her face out from behind the tray. You guys would help me get his heart? Yeah, after all, you deserve happiness too. Aphilandra giggled. After all, we all saw his, well. The gang of girls all turned bright red when they recalled the memory of the physical education class that sent them all to the hospital. After that day, they all swore to secrecy about what they witnessed and promptly got a full SX education class courtesy of Principal Shikayaku. It was an enlightening experience for the whole gang. You girls are right. I just need to use the same confidence I used to lead you all. Waltz right over there. And ask Straw Hat out on a date. Hancock stood up proudly, her head held high. All I need to do is say, hey Luffy, how about we go out for lunch sometime? And he'll say, sure, that sounds awesome. Said object of affection stood behind her with his usual dorky grin, a rib in one hand, and Ronnie out his back. The Snake Princess slowly turned herself around with a loud creaking noise as her face lit up instantly. She could barely squeak out a word, trying to find the right ones to say. Luffy cocked his head to the side as he continued to eat his lunch. Ronnie stared down at her auntie with a shocked expression before she gained a jealous one. Hey, I want to come too. Can I come too, Luffy? Ronnie asked while batting her long lashes. That's fine. You guys live in the same house, so that makes it easier to pick you both up. Luffy turned to the stuttering mess that was Boa. Is that fine with you? Before she could stutter another word, both Sandersonia and Marigold covered her mouth and nodded. Our sister would be delighted to join you out on a date this Saturday, Sandersonia said, making her older sister's head nod in agreement. We'll have both her and Ronnie ready by 12. You better take them someplace nice, Marigold agreed. Luffy shrugged, placing Ronnie down. I guess so. I'll see what I can do. He bit into his rib piece and waved. See you on Saturday, hammock. Boa barely lifted her hand as she waved him goodbye. Once he left, she turned back to normal and glared at Ronnie. Did you have to butt in like usual, Brad? She snapped. This was supposed to be a date between lovers. Oh, like you were going to speak a single word to him. Ronnie rolled her eyes. All I saw was your usual brand of pathetic pantomiming and fish lips. The two began bickering once again while the rest of the Amazon gang stared at each other. They had to help their leader's date go without a hitch and give her a good impression so the Straw Hat Boy would like her. We shall assist in making her date a great one. The day they were rescued was the best day of the sisters' lives. After a long grueling day of pleasing the clientele of the orphanage, Hancock was at her wit's end. She felt the pressure of the SMY eyes of every adult who walked through that door. The mark burned her back more than the actual event that occurred for her to receive. Sandersonia and Marigold were sitting on their beds when Hancock walked in and fell face first onto her bed. Sister, you don't have to keep doing this for us. Sandersonia pleaded, going up to her side. Every day and some nights, you have to entertain those older men and sleazy rich ones just to get some funds in the owner's pockets. How much longer do you have to suffer for all the children here? Hancock looked up at her sister with a weary smile. I am the oldest, I have to do this to provide for you. Marigold hugged her, tears running down her face. Your body should not be used that way. Value yourself more, Hancock, if not for us, then for yourself. No words were spoken between the trio as they all began to cry. Their lives were not perfect, nor were they good. Nights like this were common between the three of them, and most of the time they cried themselves to sleep. Hancock had to be strong for her sisters because that was the last promise to their parents. No matter what happened to her, as long as her sisters were safe, she was fine. A loud sound shook the building, making them all pause. Shouts were heard down below as footsteps shook the shoddy hallways. The three of them backed away to the back wall since there were no windows in their room and only one door. The eldest of the sisters grabbed the knife she hid underneath her pillow and approached the door with caution. The door began to open slowly and made them all tense up. Entering the room came a large man with slight pinkish skin, a thick dark beard, and a muscular build. He wore an open Hawaiian shirt, blue shorts, and sandals. A large sun tattoo was emblazoned on his chest. The girls stared up at him with shock on their faces as he looked down to see them. Those darn dragons locked these innocent girls in here. He growled, turning around. Get the rest of these kids out. We are burning this place down. WW, who are you? Hancock asked, her arms shaking as she aimed her knife at him. Are you here to use me? The man's face softened as he knelt in front of her. I'm not here to do any horrible things to you, miss. I am here to rescue a lot of you orphans from a life of slavery and debauchery. Are you serious? Hancock whispered before lowering her arms down. You're lying. We've heard these false promises before by men that were worse than you. All of them said that if I wanted to leave with them and leave this place is to follow them and never look back. I refused to leave without my sisters, and they got angry at me. What makes you so sure you are being honest? The man gave them a soft smile and patted her head. I am being honest with you. You all have suffered so much here and didn't deserve all this abuse. If you trust me now, you will never have to come back here ever again. The girls looked at each other before the two youngest gave their elder sister a nod. Hancock dropped the knife and began to bawl her eyes out. The strange man picked her up and guided her sisters to follow him. They saw all the other orphans being escorted by a group of adults who were giving them new clothes, a hot meal, and putting them in cars. Turns out the group was making sure every orphan had a home to go to with families that were approved by the government. The whole scene was surreal as the girls saw the owner of the orphanage that had tortured them for years be put in the back of a police car. For the first time in her life, Hancock felt a weight be lifted off her chest. She felt like she could do anything. I can't do anything right. Elder Nyan sipped her tea as she watched her stories on the television with Miss Shaki, who had her cup. The two ladies were enjoying their dramas while the real drama was going on upstairs. So, she finally got a date with Straw Hat. Shaki took a long sip before chuckling. You know, he's my godson. I've heard, and she's been ripping through clothes like she's some frenzied Black Friday shopper. Nyan huffed. I swear, she's never acted interested in boys before she met that boy. I think it's pretty cute. I'm glad she's found someone to like instead of condemning all boys to hell. Shaki gazed upwards when she heard another scream. Sounds like she's having fun. Contrary to that belief, Hancock was rummaging through a pile of clothes on the ground of her bedroom. She had only a few hours to find something presentable to wear for her date with Luffy, and none of her clothes screamed, future wife of the cutest boy in school. Not even her favorite leopard-printed leggings could comfort her right now, tossing them back into the pile. Nagarani smirked on her bed, legs kicking upwards as she flipped through the pages of a magazine. What do you think about me being the wife of Straw Hat, Auntie Boa? Ronnie rolled on her back. I would make the cutest wife. I could feed him, walk him, take him with me to the store. My boyfriend is not a dog, you insensitive child. He is a very kind man with a big smile, a handsome face, and the butt of a... Whoa, Auntie Boa. I don't need to hear the last part. The girl blushed. Not until the honeymoon. Hancock growled, throwing a sequined shirt at her face. Nagarani squealed as she threw some more clothes at her. A clothes-throwing frenzy now occurred as both were not willing to give up. The door opened as Marigold and Sandersonia walked in, only to duck under a lacy pair of undies that was thrown on the hallway wall. Well, this is getting out of hand. Sandersonia laughed. We should help out here. The girls are already in place at the spot Luffy chose. We just need to get these two into these new outfits. Marigold announced, making the girls pause in their tossing. You got us new clothes? They both asked. Marigold and Sandersonia held up bags from the popular clothes store in the mall. Just as quickly as they held them up, the bags were snatched and the door was shut in front of them. No thanks, they better be glad we're all family, Marigold huffed. Sandersonia took out her phone and started texting. Operation Hancock in love is a go. Luffy squirmed as a comb raked through his hair. Hold still, you have to look good for your date, Luffy. Sabo mused as he held down his squirming brother. This is your first official date and this girl is one of the nicest looking girls in your school according to Yamato. Yamato huffed as she crossed her arms on the couch. She's okay, not that hot at all. Ace snickered from the counter. Isn't this the same Boa Hancock that runs the campus beautification club, won all those pageants, and has a gang of females at her beck and call? The very same. She thinks she's so much better than everyone and the hottest thing since the sun god. Yamato continued, watching Luffy get ready. Why are you even bothering going out with her? She asked, and I wanted to get to know her more. Luffy flinched a bit as Sabo tugged his shirt collar. Plus, Her friends are paying for our meal, free food and a new friend, win-win. Ace shook his head. Should have known food was involved. Where are you taking her? I had to make a couple of calls, but I got us a table at the Barati. Tama popped her head out from behind the couch with Komachio. You'll be seeing Noodle Man, can I come with you too? Sorry Tama, but Luffy already has 2 girls he's taking out. You would be a third wheel. Ace joked, then saw the young girl pout. Say, why don't we go out and enjoy the day together? We'll go see Speed and ride some horses. Yay, Horselina is so friendly. Sabo patted Luffy's shoulders before backing up. I think he's ready. Luffy's outfit was simple but clean. He wore a nice white buttoned shirt, brown slacks, and his usual sandals. His straw hat hung around his neck while it wrapped around his waist. Sabo had done his best to tame his wild hair and it worked for the most part with some gel slicked back. Yamato came over with her cheeks flushed red. There's no shame if you want to just hang out here with me. I mean, we can still eat here and I can make us some nachos while we watch your favorite pirate movies. Luffy nearly considered this. Well, no way. You made a promise, his brothers exclaimed as they began to drag him out. Yamato's sweat dropped at this as Tama and Komachio laughed at his antics. Hebehime and Minahime are in position. Aw, they both look so nice. Focus Sweet Pea. We're only here to monitor, not to fawn over how hot she looks. The Amazons were currently standing in different areas surrounding the restaurant, ready to assist and protect their leader and her niece from anything that could ruin the date. They were also there to make sure Luffy didn't harm or make her feel bad. If he even said the wrong thing, did the wrong move, or spoke out of turn, they would be on him just as fast. Hancock was walking side by side with Luffy and Nagarani skipped on his other side. The little girl was bolder than her auntie as she held onto his left hand tightly. Hancock looked as if she wanted to hold his hand, but was too nervous to even try. The older Boa wore a nice outfit befitting of someone of her stature. Her sisters picked an outfit that was equal parts SXY and equal parts casual. She wore a high-waisted and belted light pink pencil skirt with a black top, an olive green oversized blazer, and matching green thigh-high boots. Her signature snake earrings were replaced with a set of black pearls and she had a black beaded necklace on her neck. To finish off her look, a red purse hung off her shoulder. Her perfume was a sweet vanilla spice. The younger Boa wore an outfit that exemplified her cuteness factor. Her hair was pulled up into 2 ponytails, tied with pink ribbons. She wore a sleeved pink turtleneck, a puffy mint green skirt, and red flats. A pink lily brooch was on her chest along with little pink rosebuds in her ears. On her back was a watermelon-colored backpack to match her outfit. She even wore her body spray that made her smell like the fruit too. Luffy smiled at Hancock, who shyly darted her eyes away. Ronnie saw this and hugged his arm with a smile. I love this so much boyfriend, she said, batting her eyes. Thanks for picking me and my auntie up today. No problem. I wanted to treat you all to a fine meal at a place where one of my close friends work. Luffy lowered the cherry blossom branch to allow Hancock to duck her head under. My, such a prince, Hancock complimented, giggling like a schoolgirl. The other Amazons squealed to themselves, blessed to have witnessed such a soft moment of their leader. Without delay, they entered the Barati with a determined look in their eyes. The guests were startled by their appearance, but the chefs all came out to greet them. Your leader is on her way, huh? Head chef Zeph asked, looking at the lead Gorgon sisters. She is. Straw Hat is with her. If we recall, he was your cabin boy for a while, Sandersonia said. He was. A terrible one to be exact. Kept dropping my plates and eating the scraps. However, he got Sanji to get out more and helped him get his girl. I can do this favor for him. Thank you, Chef Zeph. We Amazons will make sure your restaurant will be well guarded from rival gangs. Kikyo spoke proudly. Bah, we can protect ourselves. No need for you lasses to give us protection. Marguerite looked out the window and gasped. They're coming, they're coming. The rest of the girls spread out throughout the restaurant just as Sanji came out. His eyes scanned the area before he saw an influx of females and squealed with happiness. Before he could do his usual flirting, his ear was yanked backwards as Pudding pouted at him. She dragged him back to the kitchen, ready to give him an earful for almost souping to his sexual desires. Luffy entered the place with a big smile. He hadn't been there since the summer when he ate most of the food and had to repay his bill with service instead. He was the worst busboy ever, but he did get to meet Sanji and that turned out to be a fun time. "Table for 3 please," he said to the maidard. He turned back to the girls. "You guys feeling hungry?" Hancock looked around in awe. "You got us reservations at the most fanciest spot in the East Blue District? Are you a wealthy boyfriend, Luffy? Shall we grow wealth together?" Ronnie asked, making Boa glare at her. "Nah, I just worked here for a summer. I remember it was quite messy and Sanji would feed me during down times." They made it to the table in a nice corner where they could see the ocean view. Ronnie's eyes sparkled at the scene in front of her. A white tablecloth, a little candle in a glass bowl, seats lined with red leather, and a fabulous ocean view. She had never seen such luxuries and opulence where she lived. All she saw were the gray walls of her room, the white walls of the training room, and the various colorful walls of the cafeteria. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized that being the only girl in her schooling group made her long for more than what was given to her. The way the funny-looking scientists always treated her so delicately while the boys got to handle rougher training always bugged her. While she was the cutest girl in the world, she was also pretty hardy herself. After all, she was raised to be just like her auntie. Even if it meant taking her love interest as well. Ronnie leaned against Luffy's arm with a content sigh. "Oh Luffy, I can't wait till we get married. You can treat me to dinners like this every week." Boa scoffed, flipping her hair. "Why I would treat my husband with homemade meals that I cook myself? He would never go hungry if he lived in my home." "You cook hammock?" Luffy asked curiously, handing the menus out to the girls. "I do. I attend a finishing school that teaches one how to bake and cook for future guests and prospect husbands." Her eyes narrowed towards a fuming Ronnie. "My specialties will be yours to sample if you wish to come over." While the other girls fawned over Hancock's display of confidence, internally she was panicking and her heart was pounding. She was doing great, no fainting, no sputtering. A rising blush was forming on her face when Luffy accepted her offer to come over for a meal. This was her first step in proving she was a worthy wife. This date, her meal, her hand in marriage, her wedding, her first house, their first child. "Hello. Welcome to the Bharati. May I take Ga? Are you alright, mademoiselle?" Boa snapped out of her daze as she saw Ronnie snickering at her, Luffy giving her a confused glance, and Sanji trying his hardest not to freak out due to her reddened face. The Ravenette sat there, a bit flustered, as she waved her hand in front of her face. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to daze off," she started to say before Luffy laughed. "It's cool, I do the same thing in math class. Ms. Belmare always hits me with her ruler whenever I start drooling and everyone laughs." Hearing that made her laugh along with Ronnie. For a moment, while the Amazons spied on them, they saw a genuine smile on their leader's face. Okay, she did great during the appetizer and main course, so all she has to do is ace dessert. The dessert is the most romantic part of the lunch or dinner date. They could share a sweet. "Come on Boa, get a shareable dessert." The girls were sitting at their own table in the back, exchanging binoculars to look at the date. Except for their tallest girl, who was happily munching on an apple tart made by the cute blonde's baker girlfriend. The other Amazons were treated with desserts due to them helping out with the prep work for the date and even cleaned the dishes for the chefs. Not only were they grateful, they noticed more customers came in to see the beautiful ladies. Of course they were hit on, but kindly informed the creeps that they were still in school. If they persisted, girls to beat them up badly. At the date table, Boa and Ronnie were impressed by the amount of food consumed by their crush. Not only did he even take some off their plates, but he finished about a dozen himself. The two females could only keep feeding him as they both knew the most important part of the date was coming. "I must share a dessert with him. Perhaps we can get the lava cake as a symbol of our love, fiery and passionate," Boa thought, playing with her fork as she stared at him. "Time to prove to Luffy that we belong together through a delicious treat. I'm thinking a strawberry shortcake to symbolize our love, short and sweet." Ronnie giggled, staring at Luffy as he finished his meal. "Man, that hit the spot," he sighed, patting his belly. "Guess we should order dessert now." "This is my chance, Luffy, boyfriend. Let's order lava cake, strawberry shortcake." Both of them paused and glared at each other. Lava cake. Strawberry shortcake. Lava cake, strawberry shortcake. Is everything alright over here, ladies? Sanji asked, coming over to get their order. Stay out of this, both of them yelled, making him fall backwards. Luffy just smiled at them, motioning them to calm down. Why don't we do both? I can enjoy 2 great desserts at once and you guys get what you want. This made both of them sigh happily at how understanding and kind he was. Sanji picked himself off the ground, took their orders, and scurried away from the table. Boa, in a rare display of bravery, made a motion to place her hand on his. We have contact. She is holding the hand. Sandersonia grinned. Go for the lips next, Onisan. She's making him laugh. She's not stuttering. Marigold turned to her sister. This is going very well. Ronnie noticed this and sneered at her auntie. This was not going her way at all. His eyes were on Boa, not her. This date was supposed to make him see how mature she was. How cuteness trumps over sex any day. This would not do. This would not do at all. From the corner of her eye, she saw the waiter coming with the desserts and got a devious idea. Her leg shot out, tripping the waiter as the desserts flew out his hands and right onto Boa's head and outfit. Said girl shrieked, standing up abruptly as the cream went down her face. The waiter frantically apologized while she stood there about to boil over in anger. Luffy got up and began to wipe her off before her head snapped over to the mocking face of Ronnie. You, Boa pointed at the little girl. You did this to me? Why did you do this to me? I have no idea what you're talking about. The waiter clearly tripped, Ronnie said, batting her eyes. He tripped because you made him. I have had it with you trying to be me. You copy my look. You act so innocent. And now you are trying to ruin my chances with love. Do me a favor and stop being such a pest. The Amazon saw Ronnie starting to shake herself, her eyes covered by her bangs. Instead of being cute or angry, her eyes were now full of tears. This stunned everyone since Ronnie never cried for anything or anyone, keeping her cutesy facade for all to see. Some tended to forget that this was still a child they were dealing with and not a teenager. Those tears went down her cheeks as her chest heaved a bit. Her lip trembled as she got up and ran out the restaurant. Luffy turned to Boa, who was still stunned by the rare display of emotion her niece shown. Maybe you should go talk to her, she looks like she needs it. Boa sniffled, wiping the strawberry sauce off her face. I guess I should. I'm sorry that this date was a disaster. I just wanted to show off how I can be a great girlfriend to you and maybe even hold hands like the couples in the books. Stare at the sunset, sharing a dessert, you know, doing couple things. I even thought that after today we could be friends. The Straw Hat Boy looked at her with a look of understanding. Hammock, after spending time with you today and many days at school, I see you as one of my good friends. You don't have to date someone to be friends with them. And who knows, maybe someday, I might date someone special. If it happens to be you, I wouldn't mind it at all. Really, you truly mean that? Sure, just as long as the promise of a good meal is still in order. Now, go comfort your mini-you there and we can all go out for ice cream instead. He tipped his hat. This time, on me. Her heart raced a bit as she silently cheered. Internally, she was over the moon with happiness at the prospect of dating Luffy in the future. They would start out slow, date through college, get jobs near each other, and then after the wedding. Wait, she was drifting again, she had to go get Ronnie. I'll be right back, hastily, without warning, she hugged Luffy before running off red in the face. Straw Hat simply laughed at this while the Amazons gave a cheer at their leader making the first move. Boa walked out the restaurant to see Ronnie sitting on the bench outside. The little girl had her arms around her head as she cried into her knees. Her back went up and down from her constant sniffles as more tears went down her leg. Boa took a deep breath before sitting down next to her. There was silence between the two before the younger of them spoke. I'm sorry for trying to ruin your date. I was just jealous of you. You have everything that I want and more, Auntie Boa. I feel like I am just a mirror image of you. A clone that was meant to copy all things Boa. You don't have to, Ronnie, you're your own person. In fact, to be honest, I'm jealous of how confident and bold you are with men. I utterly despise all men except for my godfather and Luffy. You can talk with them so seamlessly and without a care in the world. That's because I am the only girl at a school full of boys. I have no choice while you get to be around so many cool girls. I wish I had a group of girls that were my friend and a crush as cool as Straw Hat. Guess we both felt envious of each other. Boa brought her in for a hug. Maybe I should let you come to Whole Cake more often so that you can be around other females and learn from them. And maybe I can help you get more confident with talking with Luffy so that he sees you more than just a friend. Ronnie pulled her head up and smiled at her. It's a promise. Boa ruffled her hair. Say, Luffy is treating us to some ice cream. Wanna use your cuteness to get him a discount? Do you even have to ask? Ronnie winked, giggling. The Amazons could only beamed with pride as they watched Boa and Luffy swinging Ronnie between them, looking like a cute young couple with their kid. Guess we weren't needed after all. Marguerite sighed, shaking her head. She did that all herself. I'm so happy for Hebehime, Rand tearfully said. Shall we begin planning preparations for their wedding? Kikyo asked, getting squeals from the others. As the Amazons planned a future wedding, the budding relationship between Hancock and Luffy began to grow. The air was suffocating. A chill lingered, making everything appear freezing. Heat, unmistakably and unbearably so, made him uncomfortable. His eyes closed tightly as his fingers clenched the sheets of his bed. A cough, then another, exited out of a sore throat. Over the constant sniffling of a snotty nose came murmurs from a sleeping young man. The murmurs that haunted his very dreams, those of a nightmarish scenario. Good morning, Police Commissioner Garp. Is Luffy available for a study session? It was surprising to Garp to see a bright young face standing outside his door, on a Saturday no less. What was more surprising was that this fresh young face was that of a young lady. Said young lady was shifting on her feet, side by side, looking around the home with a distinct blush on her face. Who was this pretty young thing that was waiting outside his house? Who are you? Garp asked, a bit rude, but curious. The young lady bowed her head. I apologize for the short notice. You see, I attend Luffy's after-school activities center and we had plans to hang out this weekend for a study session. He did mention me, right? Garp rubbed the back of his neck, laughing a bit. Why, of course he did. How could I, his grandfather, forget such a cute date of his? How about you come on in and I'll go fetch him for you? Oh, where are my manners? She winked at him. My name's Andon, and I'm an old friend of Luffy's. Hey Luffy, when we get older, I want to marry you, wouldn't that be fun? That voice. He hadn't heard that voice in years. How long had it been since he ventured to his mother's hometown and chatted with the locals? Speaking of said local, a familiar face with blonde hair and brown eyes appeared to be staring down at him. This girl had a big smile on her face, her hair in twin tails, and wore a cute white dress. He could smell the light aroma of lemons on her, aiding to her memorable appearance. Luffy-chan, wake up. I want to do it today. A stick poked his nose, making him leap up and hold his nose furiously. What was that for, you psycho? He yelled at the girl, who held the stick tightly in her hands. I don't want to wait for our lives to be over before we do this. I want to marry you right now. The girl demanded, her eyes puffy from crying. You're moving away soon and I can't have the last thought of you sleeping in my memories forever. Geez, can't you write to me or get my number like normal girls? Why can't you be normal? Silk. Silk? Wait, this girl wasn't Silk, was she? The entire memory started to fizzle out as Luffy felt himself slipping deeper. The world went dark as he saw the sinister face of the girl looking down at him. Commissioner, let me pour the tea for you. Garp smiled as he watched Luffy's study buddy brewing him a pot of tea on the stove. It was rare for someone of the opposite sex to step foot into the household whenever Ace and Sabo were back in school. Normally, when either of them visited, they would bring along Koala or Itsuka who would happily help with keeping the house tidy. Anne was just doing the same thing as any of those girls were doing. Dusting off the furniture, cleaning the kitchen down, and even making a hearty breakfast. He sat down at the table, reading the morning paper that she had retrieved from the stoop. Anne hummed to herself as she cracked a couple of eggs on the side of a large mixing bowl. With a whisk, she stirred in the spices and fluffed them up goof. Say, where are Sabo and Ace? Surely they would be back around this time? It's almost spring break for university. She asked politely, pouring the eggs in the pan. Bah, those two are away on vacation. Some of Ace's fraternity brothers made plans for a road trip while Sabo has a couple of rallies he's heading to for his club. What about your son? He works there too, is he not coming home? That boy never comes home unless it's a holiday that matters, so no, it's usually just me and the boy here. That's why I'm happy to see him getting out more and enjoying life. Is that so? Anne sprinkled in some extra seasonings on the eggs while the bacon sizzled. Do you still like strawberry jam on your toast? Ooh yes. Don't tell Sengoku. But a little jam never kills my cholesterol. Garp held out his mug as she poured his tea. Say, you seem to have our entire meals in memory. Oh, well, Luffy has talked a dozen times about his family and how meticulously everyone eats. It's always nice to keep tabs on those kinds of things. Garp hummed in thought, taking a swig of tea. You know, he drives me crazy sometimes, Anne. I want him to quit that girly school and work on the police force, however, he always says it's a waste of time and energy on his part. He wants to travel the world and explore new cities like some drifter. Anne smiled, wiping down the counter. He's always been like that, ever since he was a kid and saving everyone from bullies. A part of his charm is that he can bring a smile on your face with just a glance and make you feel better. It was something I often miss whenever I thought of him. What she said made Garp pause and look towards the humming girl. He saw her sprinkling some cheese into the omelet she was making for Luffy and a plate full of cut fruit on the side. A mug full of hot tea sat down next to her as she began to spread the butter on the toast. That's when he noticed the pill bottle hiding behind the bottle of ketchup. Say, Anne, he said slowly as he continued to sip the tea. What is that bottle of pills for? Oh, that? Seeing that Luffy isn't down here with all this food, I assume he must be sick. Perhaps. A fever with slight diarrhea? Anne chuckled, turning slowly. He probably caught it yesterday from that orange-haired girl from his math class. Okay. You never answered the question, Anne. In fact, how do you know so much about our family? You act as if you've been here the whole time. Garp felt himself becoming drowsier as his vision started to flicker. Anne turned around slowly, sticking her tongue out and winking. For someone who works in the police, you sure don't know your narcotics. It took me many tries to find the right dosage to take down the mighty Garp, but I think this should knock you out for a couple of hours. The blue-haired girl smiled down as the captain began trying to get himself from knocking out. His hand reached out to her as she waved at him. With a loud thud, he passed out right in front of her. A loud sigh came out of her mouth as she put the breakfast she made for Luffy on a tray along with some orange juice and the medication. I can't believe that this family doesn't have some sort of security system. I mean, with 2 guys in this house, a couple of firearms, and a key under the mat, it's so easy. At least Luffy is all alone now and ripe for the plucking. She checked herself in the mirror before gasping. I should probably take off this cheap wig. Maybe later. Her hips shook as she made her way toward his bedroom with food for her lovely boyfriend. Seeing the cute sheep and lion on the door made her grin as she used her free hand to open the door. Hello, my prince. Your beautiful nurse is here to make sure the fever she gave you is worth seeing you in bed. This took many years to plan, so let me make the most of this and feed you. Luffy's room was messier than she thought. Clothes were all over the floor, numerous memorabilia from his family and friends were on the walls and shelf, and his bed was even a pirate ship. She cooed at the stuffed animals that were on a shelf over his bed that represented all his friends and family. The iconic straw hat hung on the closet door, making her squeal. With her leg, she wiped off some space on the desk to put the tray down. Luffy was currently tossing and turning in his bed, hands clenching on the red sheets. His bare chest glistened with sweat as his breathing was shallow. His hair stuck to his forehead. To her delight, he was only in his briefs as his shirt was on the floor. She came over and caressed his face gently. Been a while. No parents, no SXY brothers, and definitely no pop stars or dog girls. Anne's smile widened as she brought his head up to her chest. Just you and me for the next couple of hours with no one interfering with our reunion. We have so much catching up to do. His murmurs filled the air, making him squirm in her arms. Anne closed her eyes as she reveled in the proximity of their love. Her lips quivered a tad, wanting to plant a big kiss on his soft, sickly lips. Her beating heart drummed as her breath became shallow. The more she leaned over, the more she wanted to make out with her lover. This was much better than kidnapping. After all, the best place to be in love is at the home. Home is where the heart is. And thanks to me memorizing everything about you for the past few years. No one ever comes here unless on certain days in the week. But should anyone open the door or try to take away my time with you, I'm very handy with a knife." Anne then remembered the food on his desk and went over to grab the fork and knife. If he wasn't waking up anytime soon, she might as well feed him. Visiting his mother's hometown always brought about chaos. The family trips often ended with meeting her parents, them not approving dragon, a big shouting match, kisses exchange, and then leaving. They only stayed for a weekend. Visiting the Grand was always quite difficult and never fun for the adults. For Luffy, it meant being away from his brothers and the town he came to love. Although, he did get to meet some new friends and eat some new foods. He walked down the hallway of the upstairs, hearing the yells of the adults from down below. His eyes glanced at his mother, who was fretting by the stairs before noticing her son. With a mischievous expression, she gestured for him to follow her. Not one to say no to her, he eagerly leapt into her arms as they ran out of the house. The salty sea air hit his nose the moment they stepped outside. Waves slapped against the rocky shores of the beach house where his grandparents lived. Being by the sea was something that cemented in his mind as the only thing worth coming to when they visited. He saw the sun glistening off the water, shining like jewels that reflected off his eyes. His mother carried him down to the shores, both of them sitting down and letting their feet soak. "I'm sorry, Luffy," the soothing voice of his mother said. "Every time we come to visit, you seem to have to listen to all that yelling. It's not fair to you, nor is it right." "I don't mind," Luffy replied softly. "I get to have these moments with you." He leaned against her shoulder, a blush evident on his face. His mother said nothing but placed an arm around her son and squeezed him tightly. It was a brief moment of peace between them as Luffy closed his eyes contented. When he opened them again, the sky was dark, the ocean red, and sand black. He jumped up, noticing his mother was gone and the beach house abandoned and broken down. His heart began racing as a chill ran through his body. In the distance, he noticed a single figure standing in the shadows, a menacing grin on their face. Luffy wanted to run, but the sand gripped tightly on his ankles. He struggled a bit as the figure reached out towards him while giggling. "Found you, Luffy." The rain came down harder outside as a familiar face was seen running in the downpour. "Hey, slow down, you crazy dogs. If I wanted to get messy, I would have baked with the little ones." The curvaceous appearance of Charlotte Linlin made her way down the block with her 4 very friendly dogs dragging her. Her bright pink raincoat, boots, and umbrella stuck out in the grayish world around her. With her feet splashing every muddy puddle, she was this close to yanking her dogs backward and going home. Life, as it seems, has a way of dropping you exactly where you don't want to end up. Zeus decided to stop abruptly, causing Prometheus, Napoleon, and Hera to crash right into him. Linlin's eyes widened as she careened over the fallen dog pile and right into the soaked lawn in front of them. Her head slowly rose to glare at her dogs when she saw the mailbox. Monkey family. Her face turned from a grimace to a snarl when she realized where she was. Of course, with her luck, she ended up where her biggest enemy lived. She cursed the various gods in her head as she stood up to allow mud to slide off her body. Monkey D. Luffy was the bane of her existence and the most annoying creature alive. "I'm not going to do anything petty. I'm merely here by coincidence and stupid luck. I should just go away and continue to walk my precious poochies back home." She spoke aloud while pacing the sidewalks. Her dogs walked alongside her, happy to be included in her pacing. Then again, when will I have another opportunity to get revenge on him? It must be fate for me to ruin his life. With a newfound pep in her step, Lincoln skipped down the walkway to the door. Before she rang the doorbell or knocked on the door, she noticed it was slightly ajar. The notion didn't bother her as she told her dogs to stay on the stoop as she entered the home. It was quiet, too quiet for it to be the home of a rambunctious teenage boy. From what she heard through the gossips of Alvida, he lived with a boisterous grandfather with a penchant for physical violence. Her eyes narrowed while she tracked mud into the house and looked around. It was modest, nothing too impressive. It was not as big as her home at least. Good for a smaller family that didn't have to feed 80+ people. Perhaps the residents were out and about on this rainy day. Maybe Luffy took his grandfather out for a warm meal on this rainy, cold day. Linlin poked her head into the kitchen and bit her lip from screaming. What the hell was going on here? Lin Lin stood in the kitchen of her mortal enemy in absolute shock. Her hands covered her mouth to prevent the screams from clawing their way out her throat. The fallen commissioner on the ground was a terrifying image she wished not to have in her mind. Her knees buckled, falling in front of the old man before she noticed he was breathing. Oh, thank goodness, she did not want to see a dead body again. Her lovable pups poked their noses in, whimpering as if they sensed her emotional change. From upstairs, Lin Lin could hear someone still walking about from the creaks of the floorboards. She hushed her dogs, motioning them to leave the front door before a roar of thunder shook the house. The poor pups raced inside the house and tackled her down to the floor. Zeus was dopily wagging his tail, Prometheus licked her face, Napoleon stood guard, and Hera leapt into her arms. While comforting, Lin Lin heard some doors opening upstairs. Hello? Is anyone down there? A female? Was Straw Hat seeing someone? She rolled her eyes. Of course, he had female friends, but this one didn't sound like Tangerine, Bookworm, Rabbit Face, or even Dog Breath. This one sounded a tad too sweet in vocal delivery. Must have been the storm. The voice said with a sigh. All right then, my prince. I think I should finally go down and get your medicine. No. Lin Lin got onto her feet and herded her dogs toward the closet in the kitchen. The pants from her pets died down when they saw a blue-haired girl coming into the kitchen with a saccharine smile and an empty plate. She began to wash the plate while humming to herself. Lin Lin's eyes surveyed the area more intensely. There was a knife on the counter, a pill bottle on the table, and a bag by the couch. The girl moved Garp over to the couch, placing him down gently, and covered him with a blanket. Then went to the cabinet to pull out some cough syrup and poured a glass of water. The way she walked, how she kept a constant warm smile, and how her hands moved in a synchronistic manner made her come off as uneasy. I can't believe how easy this was. It took many years of planning, research, and patience, but I can finally live out my fantasies of being his wife. The girl poured the cough syrup into a small cap. No bloodshed, no stabbing, and not a single drop of poison. Didn't have to make a single person hurt, just had to knock out an old man. Best plan ever, Silk. With a flourish of her hand, Lin Lin saw her taking off her blue hair to reveal blonde locks instead. Her hair went down her back in two ponytails. Her fingers reached up to her eyes before taking out what appeared to be contacts that showed her now brown eyes. That's when she realized who this girl was, and why she prayed her dogs to not blow their cover. That was Romance Don Silk, the notorious serial killer. The Romance Don? What kind of moniker is that? It was another last-day adventure at his mother's hometown. He watched as the waves lapped up against his legs as he sat beside his friend. Both relished the complete silence between them as they spoke of their dreams. The setting sun in the foreground had the sun melting into a pool of gold. He remembered how she looked on that day. Her hair was in a ponytail, tied with a blue bow. Her dress was navy blue with a pattern of white flowers. Even the sandals she had matched the pattern. Even the small necklace she wore around her ankle caught the sun's rays that glinted gold as well. When I grow up, I am going to sail the world, and that's what my ship is going to be called. I want to be free to live my life and find my way out of this town. She grinned at him. And I want you to come with me as my husband. Husband. Luffy fell backward onto the sand, his hat falling off a bit. I don't want to marry you. What? Why not? Because I said so. I don't want to marry you. Is there something wrong with me? I can change for you? Luffy stuck out his tongue. Nah. I just had my dream to do before I could ever think about marrying someone. I would rather have a million friends than marry right now. Silk looked positively heartbroken. Luffy. Her eyes began to water. I don't understand. I thought we made a connection this summer. I thought we would have a summer romance that blossoms over years of longing until eventually you remember me one day in the future and wish to reconnect after all this time. Then, from there, we fall madly in love and then get married, and then have so many kids. The more she talked, the more unhinged she began to sound. Luffy backed away slightly from her before noticing the skies began to turn red. The waves splashed against the nearby cliffside, making the water look like blood. He backed away from her, only to see the sand shifting to drag him under. He yelped, struggling to get out as Silk approached him. His eyes went wide as she began to push him down while gleefully laughing. This is why you shouldn't have rejected me. I was going to be your girlfriend forever, Luffy. Silk relished his fearful glance as sand began to fill his lungs. Lin had to find a way out. On one hand, this was that stupid Straw Hat's problem, not hers. All she did was wander into his house, granted that sounded shady already, and saw the knocked out senior officer on the ground. Why she didn't call the police was on her, but she tried to swallow her fears as she saw the strange girl making lunch with a happy look in her eyes. It would only be a matter of time before the girl would come into the pantry and catch her. Now Lin could handle this chick with no problem. Her bare hands could essentially crush metal. She was more worried about Luffy since she spied that bottle of cough syrup. Even if she didn't like him, she didn't want him hurt. That was her job. Gosh darn it. Hera began to whimper slightly as she pawed her leg. Her other dogs began to pant louder as they wanted to go out and walk again. Lin tried to hush her doggies when she noticed Silk had paused in her actions before turning her head towards the pantry. Her movements started to be more deranged and tactical, slinking ever so closer to the door. "Someone is here besides the monkey men?" Her voice started like a whisper before she began to yell. "Are you one of his brothers?" "No, they're not here this weekend." "His father?" "No, he's never around." "Then it must be one of his little sluts." "Sluts? Are you serious right now? I hate that bastard." "Yeah, one of his little playthings he calls friends. Like that tangerine girl with the money issue. Or the bookworm who thinks she's so cool and collected. I'm hoping it's that beauty queen because I want to wring her neck myself." Silk stood outside the door, her eyes narrowed. "However, the one I want to kill personally is Charlotte Lin." "Me? This girl has balls. If she thinks she can kill me, I would pound her first before she could stab me. I've been wanting to kill that witch for so long now. However, she has that massive family of freaks that keep guarding her. If I could stab her a couple of times for the various times that she hurt my beloved, I would feel great." She grabbed the handle of the door. "So, let's see who it is that wants to ruin my day." Just as the door was opening, Zeus jumped out and pounced on her. Silk screamed in shock and fear before Prometheus and Napoleon followed right after. Lin got up off the floor with Hera barking in her arms. Without delay, the pink-haired girl leapt up and slammed down on the back of Silk. The girl gasped in pain as she struggled to look up at the one who dared to do this to her. "What was that about stabbing me?" Lin taunted, drilling her knee into her back. "What did you do to that annoying Straw Hat? Why are you doing this to him? Get off me, you freaking oaf. You hurt him. You made his life a living hell." Silk began to squirm underneath her and the dogs. "Why are you saving him now?" "Because if anyone is going to hurt Straw Hat emotionally, it's going to be me." Lin snapped. "Not some stalker obsessed with marrying." "Screw you. I was so close. Get off me with your fat ass." "Now that's mean. I have a very luscious bottom and many who want to tap it." Silk tried to move, tried to reach her knife only for Napoleon to snatch it up in his teeth and walk off. Zeus and Prometheus kept her arms pinned down while Lin adjusted herself on her back. The crazed girl cussed, screamed, and spat out threats in trying to release herself. The rain outside picked up just as the police finally came into the house. They were surprised to see Lin and her dogs but were more surprised to see the chief passed out on the couch. The procedure was a blur as they placed handcuffs on Silk, who was bruised from the strength of the other girl. Lin's heart was racing wildly as her eyes glared right in her direction as she was pushed into the cop car. Luffy was being carted away to the ambulance, his face still red and sweating. Whatever she had drugged him with rushed through his body at a rapid pace and would have nearly put him into a coma had she not been there. He was sick, teetering on the edge of death at every moment. Lin couldn't believe someone would do something like that to an innocent guy like him. Sure, she may hate him, but never would resort to killing him. "You did a good thing, young lady." One of the officers spoke, snapping her out of the trance. "Had you not come along, the boy would be dead and the chief could have gotten more injured." She nodded, swallowing her fears as she stared at the car. "What's going to happen to Silk?" "Don't you worry about her. There's a nice cell waiting for her and no doubt she's going away to impel down for a long time." From inside the vehicle, Silk had finally calmed down as a grin cracked onto her face. That Charlotte Lin had underestimated that brute. She was caught off guard, that's all. No matter what happened here, she would remember this humiliation. All of Luffy's love interests were on her kill list, But this pink witch had just moved up higher for her. She broke out once, she could do so again. Enjoy this victory for now, Linlin. Next time, it will be your blood on my hands after I twist your thick neck. Justice equals power. That was the mantra of all who joined the elite forces that protected the world nobles from the crime and villainy of the world. For those who forces the hand of God to punish them are in for a rude awakening. Where the police handled most of the small-time punks and criminal organizations, they handled the real threats to the country. Terrorists that would turn the world upside down, anarchists who wished to see it all burn, and the worst of them all, revolutionaries. The governor IM only takes notice of these people and sends out his forces to subdue them before they become too powerful. One such lad has been in his sights for the longest of times. Gigi, I don't want to be some cop. Nonsense. Just try the academy out for a week and you'll change your tune. So was the plight of Monkey D. Luffy as he was being dropped off at the ever-so-gaudy building of the Police Academy of the East Blue Division. Ever since he started attending Whole Cake, his grandfather insisted he transfer out to go to a more suitable place to earn an education and develop his skills. Granted, there were many other schools that would have been viable. Luffy preferred Sabodi High where all his friends went. But family traditions had to be beaten into his thick skull. Ever since Garp had Dragon, he always strived to have his son follow his footsteps to become chief of police like him. Rise through the ranks and together they would stop the crime in their city. Unfortunately, Dragon went the route of a professor at the local college to teach ethics and law. This disappointed the old man, vowing to have one of his grandkids take that mantle. Sabo went to college to study law to become a lawyer. Ace was also in college and had an internship at the Whitebeard Company. Udo was a famous pop star who rarely showed her face in town. Garp considered her as his grandchild since she used to hang out with the boys. Yamato flat out refused and even threatened to clobber him if he tried, not like he couldn't deflect her, but she gave quite the wallop. That left either Luffy or Tama. Tama was out of the question due to fiercely protective older brother Ace and that she wished to be some sort of female ninja. So Luffy it was. After giving him a large breakfast consisting of pancakes, eggs, bacon, and orange juice, he was too lethargic to move. That's when he threw him in the backseat of his van along with a suitcase and sped down the path to his alma mater. This is kidnapping, old man, Luffy protested as he struggled in his seat. Seriously, why would you double knot this? For your own safety, and I know you'd gnaw through the first strap, brat. Garp turned sharp, causing Luffy to slam his face in the window. For once, I want one of you to try following your elders in the action-packed world of policing. Just one. Not go off to college to get a piece of crap saying you're a lawyer or going on a world tour without sending a postcard. I do have a dream of my own. You know, being a leader of some sort of criminal organization does not count as a career choice. Luffy made more frustrated noises as he tried to break out the double-knotted seatbelt to no avail. Garp merely laughed as he turned the road towards the police academy. The winding road up the mountainside that overlooked the town was just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Celestial Dragon's gated community. Across the large port side was impelled down in the midst of the roughest waters imaginable. If one crossed the seas, they would reach the leader of the world on his own private island. The police were under his thumb, every judicial authority at his beck and call. None dared to go against his order. Unless you were the elusive criminal known as Joy Boy. A story, my dear viewers, for another time. At the entrance of the police academy stood a pink-haired individual who paced back and forth as he waited for the aforementioned vehicle to pull up. Lazing about on a bench nearby was a blonde-haired man wearing goggles as he watched his comrade pacing. Sitting next to him was a blonde-haired female with her hair in a ponytail who was blowing a piece of gum while watching the pink-haired boy. Come on, Kobe-senpai. Just sit down and wait for your friend. Hibari, the female, spoke out. Garp-sensei said they would be here any moment now. He's just worried that Luffy won't be impressed by all this. Helmeppo snarked, yawning a bit. Who can blame him? Garp-sensei is practically forcing him to be here. You don't get it. Kobe smiled as he gazed up at the clouds. If it hadn't been for Luffy, I would not even be here. I owe him so much, and if he plans on becoming what I think he wants to be, I want to be the one to catch him and bring him in. The sound of screeching tires was heard as the trio saw the large minivan that was Garp's. You could tell it was his by the dog's snout on the front, Dalmatian spots across the white frame, and the fact that he hung his police symbol on his mirror. The van came to halt as the imposing figure of one of the greatest cops of all time came out. "Sir." The three stood up straight and saluted their superior. "Good morning." "At ease, you three. You know you don't have to do that every day when it comes to me." The older man slammed the door closed. "I do, however. Hope you are ready for the task I have for you this week." Hibari leaned forward, seeing the still double-knotted Luffy sitting in the backseat. "Is that him? The infamous grandson you speak so highly about?" Helmeppo scowled when he saw him before backing away quickly. "I could never forget a face like that. Punched me good when I was a jerk." Kobe was about to say something about that before shaking his head. He went over to the van and opened the door. Upon seeing a familiar face, Luffy gave him his signature grin. "Kobe, how's it going?" he asked, struggling in the bind. "Haven't seen you since the fall formal." "Hey, are you still trying to ask out that girl you gave the bear to?" Behind him, Hibari began to blush as she turned her head away. Kobe gave Luffy a mortified expression while Helmeppo and Garp bust out laughing. Trying to keep his composure, Kobe broke Luffy out the seatbelts before covering his face with one hand. "Luffy. That girl is standing right behind me," he muttered as he wished to crawl into the ground and perish. "Oh." Luffy stared at the red-faced Hibari before waving. "Hey there, Kobe thinks you're cute." Garp slapped Luffy on the back, sending the poor young man into the nearby tree. "Mind your business, brat. If Kobe and Hibari want to keep their dating a secret, you should stop blabbing about it." "I thought it was very obvious," Luffy said, face lodged into the tree. "Anyways, these three here will be your guides around the police academy. While you are here to learn and reflect on your previous actions that lead to this, I want you to make an effort to actually pay attention to the instructors. No slacking off." Garp threw Luffy's bags at Kobe, who caught them with no fuss. "I will make you into a cop yet." Luffy peeled himself from the tree before grumbling at Garp's attempt to make him into a cop again. Before he could say something back at his grandfather, a more illustrious vehicle appeared next to them. Immediately the others bowed as Garp pushed down Luffy's head as well. Exiting the vehicle were a group of individuals that were dressed in black uniforms, held marks on their shoulders, and had badges that looked as though they were platinum. Luffy's eyes went wide when he saw that their leader looked just like his uncle Shanks. He then recalled stories that Shanks used to tell him about how he was glad Ace and Sabo was in his life since his own older brother was terrible. Then this must be the horrible brother Shamrock. His eyes glared at them as his group walked by. Luffy felt his heart hammering a bit under his gaze, but kept his head low to prevent himself from grimacing. The other members were very odd to say the least. An older man with his uniform kinda just casually strolled next to a tall skull mask. A black-haired woman with her arms crossed walked by another older guy who had a weird horse-like mane of hair. The strangest of the bunch though was the short-haired female who exited the limo last holding the leashes of three rather large German shepherds. Her lower face was covered up with bandages and she had cute heterochromatic eyes. As she walked past the group, the dogs began to snap at a frightened Hibari. Kobe got in front of her, wincing when one of the dogs nicked his knee. "Oi!" Luffy spoke up, surprising the rest of the kneeling crew. "Your dogs just hurt my friend here, apologize." Silence followed after a moment. Shamrock turned around, his face coldly gazing at Luffy. The girl who had the dogs shot an angry look at him before kicking him across the face. The impact of the kick had Luffy face planting into the ground. "How dare you speak to us, whelp?" she lashed out. "You should be glad that we didn't let the great Cerberus tear your face off." Instead of shaking in fear, Luffy rose his now cut forehead face up and practically gave her a stare that could see right into her soul. The girl gave him a stare back, but faltered a bit when she saw his eyes had a tinge of gold to them. A small part of her brain associated golden eyes with that sun god. She shook her head and was about to attack him again before Shamrock placed a hand on her shoulder. "Calm down, Gunko. This young man was just trying to defend his friend here," the red-haired man assured her before facing Luffy. "Your eyes have a certain fire in them. It will be my pleasure to make sure they break if you are attending our week-long training session." "But sir," Gunko tried to say before her shoulder was squeezed hard. "Very well. I guess I can get my frustration out on him during training. You boy, what is your name? Shamrock inquired. Monkey D. Luffy. You best not forget it. Luffy challenged, standing up to face the man. One of Garp's children. I look forward to punishing you. Shamrock took Cerberus off Gunko's hands. I am Commander Figarland Shamrock, welcome to the academy. He walked off, the rest of his group following after. Gunko took one last look at Luffy before stomping off with the rest of them. Luffy let out the breath he was holding before Garp's signature, Fist of Love, bashed his brains in. Kobe was being treated by Hibari, who was looking at Luffy with awe. Helmeppo gulped, his legs shaking from the confrontation. Do you have any idea who you just pissed off? Scolded Garp. Those were the Holy Knights, the highest-ranking officers of the force. They work under the world nobles and the saints. You put a large target on your back. This week could be hell for you. And, when has that ever stopped me before? Luffy gave Garp a dopey look. I'll be fine. Stop worrying. Garp looked as if he was about to break a blood vessel. Kobe just shook his head, getting up as he gave Luffy a determined look. Don't worry, Luffy. We'll be by your side the whole time and make sure you don't get into too much trouble, Kobe promised. We will, Helmeppo murmured before getting elbowed by Hibari. Ouch, alright? We'll do our best to help him. We are a team, so we all stick together. Hibari gave them a soft smile. We live by the sword. We die by the sword. The boys finished with smiles of their own. Luffy gave his grandfather a thumbs up. If I have to pound someone on the face, I will. Garp could only hope his grandson will be okay. Not for the sake of his life, but for the sake of the ones who had been influenced by him. For if anyone who admired and loved Luffy heard he had perished, who knows what chaos would erupt in town.